Welcome everybody to the September 16th, 2025 meeting of the Tompkins County Legislature. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we get a roll call of members, please?
Randy Brown.
Here.
Amanda Champion.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Rich Johns asked to be excused. Ann Corman.
Here.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Greg Mezzi is asked to be excused. Dan Nolan.
Here.
Veronica Pillar.
Here.
Lee Shirtliff.
Here.
Mike Sigler.
Here.
Shauna Black.
Here.
Travis Brooks has also asked to be excused. Dan Klein.
Here. We have 11 members present. That is a quorum. First order of business is the reading of a proclamation, and Veronica Pillar is going to read it.
Yes, thank you, Dan. Whereas the over 500-year-old Hispanic culture, steeped in tradition and centered on principles of family and community, strengthens the fabric of our entire society. And whereas Hispanic people have been a part of this nation from its very inception, their presence in its territories contributing to shape its society and culture. And whereas Tompkins County is home to an active, growing, and civically engaged Hispanic community, and whereas virtually every aspect of our community's life has been influenced by Hispanic people, whether in arts, medicine, government, labor, business, or volunteerism, and whereas the Latino Civic Association of Tompkins County is celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with a series of exciting family-friendly community events, and whereas September 15th traditionally starts Hispanic Heritage Month because it is the anniversary of independence of 5 Latin American countries, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature proclaims, recognizes, and designates the month spanning September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Tompkins County. Resolved further that together with our entire community, we join in celebration and recognition of the Hispanic community and salute the Latino Civic Association of Tompkins County for its outstanding work on behalf of Hispanic people throughout Central New York. And we have Yen and Maya from the Latino Civic Association to come receive the proclamation.
Why don't you come on up? Do a quick photo shoot, and then you can say whatever you'd like.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Yen Ospina. I am the president of Latino Civic Association. This is Maya. She is my secretary. We are really happy to tell you that we are going to be doing a bunch of family-friendly events as said in the proclamation. And now more than ever, we need support from you during this time. So by supporting us, that means showing up and connecting with us, and there's going to be a lot of nonprofit organizations within our events that help directly the community and spreading the word. So yeah, just a little goes a long way, and I'm really thankful to be receiving this and also just being able to put back into my community. And thank you again for having us.
Okay, we do not have any executive sessions scheduled for tonight. Yes, that deserves applause too. And as far as reordering of business, I would like to propose that we move resolutions K and L up right after the consent agenda. Is that okay with the body?
Yes.
Other suggestions? Yep, Shauna?
Yeah, I also want to make an announcement. I believe probably a few people are here for the flock cameras, and did want to let people know that I would like to make a motion at some point to postpone that until our October 7th legislature meeting. Flock Incorporated will be at our public safety meeting at the end of the month, but they're also going to join us at our legislature meeting October 7th to answer concerns and questions from our community. So just wanted to let everyone know that.
What's the date of the public safety meeting?
It's the 29th, maybe? Is it September 29th?
September 30th.
September 30th.
Great, thank you. So it's going to be proposed to be pulled from the agenda tonight, meaning we won't be voting on it if it passes. All right. Thank you. Next up is public privilege of the floor. If there's any members of the public that wish to speak, what you need to do is to go back to the back of the room, grab one of these blue forms, fill it out, and bring it up, and then we'll put you in line to speak. And if you're going to speak, you are agreeing to some rules. I am now going to read the rules. I agree to a 3-minute time limit. I agree not to raise my voice. I agree not to use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language, or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. I agree not to speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about the job performance of named county employees other than elected officials. After 3 minutes, I agree to leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. I agree to be courteous and not make comments, gestures, outbursts, or other disruptions while other members of the public or legislators are speaking. And I agree that if I cause a disruption and am asked to leave, I will leave the chambers. Before we start on this list, I do want to mention that something that maybe most of you have figured out already, the air conditioning is not working in the room today. So that's why you might feeling what you're feeling. The first two people that we're going to be doing for public privilege of the floor are on Zoom, and then we'll go to the people in the room. So the first person up is Martha Robertson, former chair of the Tompkins County Legislature. Martha, you are on.
Terrific. I can't believe I'm first. Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on. I'm calling in to speak about Herald Square as a potential site for many or most of your offices that are slated to go into the center of government building. I want to first thank Randy Brown for coming out for a tour of the Herald Square building. It's on the Commons last Friday. I sent an email with a lot of details yesterday to you, yesterday afternoon. I know you have a ton of emails, but there's a lot of detail in there. Just very briefly, Herald Square has got almost 58,000 square feet of existing office space that is ready for the county to take possession. There's one of the floors is already built out as offices. The details are in the email that you have. There are many different options, and I understand you've got the plans from Holt for about 51,000. So 57,000 square feet, you should be able to find what you need there. It includes beautiful space on the Commons, right? Very visible on the Commons as well. Why am I getting involved in this? I just found out recently that the office space in Herald Square was not used. There's one floor, as I said, it has been in use. But I just found out when I was on the IDA and we approved this building, it was a whole different economic climate. Since COVID, we know that office space has really gotten vacated, where people are just not using the space that was previously planned. So this is an opportunity for the county. Very briefly, and you'll hear from other speakers representing the company, you could have occupancy in a year instead of 4 years. This could be done for half the price of what you're projecting right now. And I just want to emphasize that the developer, David Lubin, I've known for many years, he's ready to be extremely flexible in terms of leasing or leasing with an option to buy or leasing some of it and buying some of it, even naming the building with Tompkins County's name on the building, and even buying the 3 buildings on the corner of Buffalo Street and Tioga, if that's your preference. So I think you could still put the county clerk and district attorney on the corner of Buffalo and Tioga and use the top 2 floors for apartments or condos for residences. There's a way to do this. I really urge you to take time, take a look, and have an open mind, and sign up for a tour of Herald Square. I think it's the responsible thing to do. Thanks.
Okay, the next member of the public is also coming to us on Zoom, Jim McGuire. Okay, Jim, you're on.
Hi, my name is Jim McGuire, and I'm David Lubin's partner in Herald Square. I'd like to thank Martha for that lovely introduction, and it was a pleasure meeting you the other day in Ithaca. So first of all, thank you to the legislator for the opportunity to speak to this group. I appreciate it very much. As leaders, you're challenged to manage the resources at your disposal and create environments to meet the needs of both your staff and the community they serve. And we live in a time of great volatility and uncertainty. Costs can escalate more than anticipated, as you've seen, this budget evolve over the last couple of years. You've been planning and studying it. Timelines can extend, and the total economic climate can change, as we've experienced with COVID. So we've got beautiful space. It would be wonderful to see it utilized in this fashion. We're tremendously flexible as to how we might approach that. And one of the things, we're speaking about volatility and the difficult to predict the future, we're all anticipating that artificial intelligence is going to have a tremendous impact on productivity and on the way people work. And it's very difficult to be in a situation where you're trying to predict the office space requirements 10 or 15 years from now. You're building a building that will obviously have a very long useful life. And we offer the flexibility of purchasing space or leasing space or a combination. There will always be a need for government office space and a place for people to get the services they need and deserve. But we might be able to give you the flexibility where you could adjust as necessary in the future, 10 or 15 years from now. And so we're grateful that you give any consideration to this alternative. We think it could be very cost effective. We're estimating that we could deliver something in the low 20s, 20-something million dollars versus a current budget of about $50 million. And we could do it obviously very quickly because the shell and infrastructure of the building is all up and in place. It would just be configuring the interior spaces to your particular needs. So we hope it's not too late for you to give some thoughtful consideration to this alternative, and we would, obviously work in good faith and earnestly to do something that's very beneficial to the community and would stabilize this asset and create a very nice presence on the commons. Thank you again for your time, and we're available for any questions or follow-up as you may desire.
Okay, we're now going to go to members of the public that are in the room. First up is Zach Wynn.
I have come here tonight to ask the legislature to issue a statement condemning political violence. Since Charlie Kirk was assassinated last Wednesday, the world has seen an outpouring of mourning over his life being snatched away, as well as gleeful delight in his death. The fact that so many people across the country are willing to proudly proclaim that they're not only glad Kirk is dead, but he deserved to die, should terrify all of you. There are people who want to see more murders. The phenomenon of politically motivated violence is not foreign to Tompkins County. It will be 5 months ago next month that a peaceful demonstration by Republicans at their office on Route 13 devolved into a mass mob assault. Their property was stolen and burned in the street during a roadblock, their only crime expressing an opposing point of view. I understand that following Kirk's murder, the planned Tompkins County Democratic Party picnic had to be canceled due to threats. A previous event at Ithaca College was canceled due to safety concerns after posters of elected officials spattered with blood, including Chair Dan Klein, were posted on social media and pasted to walls across town. You clearly have an understanding of the potential for violence to occur. Ultimately, your personal feelings about Charlie Kirk and his beliefs are irrelevant. He was killed for his speech. It comes down to a question if you think people should be killed for their ideas. I know some, if not all of you, have been the subject of threats and harassment owing to your roles as elected officials. There is a reason this building has security guards and metal detectors. You must understand that there is no guarantee you are immune from the whirlwind of violence that is growing like a gathering storm. It is clear that Charlie Kirk's murder, like that of Brian Thompson by Luigi Mangione, is part of a pattern of ideologically motivated violence that appears to be accelerating. I am asking you to pump the brakes. As the elected officials of this community, I ask you to speak out about what is happening and discourage it. Issue a simple, unequivocal statement that political violence has no place in our community and a free society. Make it clear that in a free society, the response to speech you don't like is not violence, it is more speech. Evelyn Beatrice Hall said, "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." Charlie Kirk is already dead, but if you lead, maybe you can help prevent the next death. Make a proclamation, put out a statement, set a standard for acceptable conduct, and denounce political violence. Do it publicly and do it now. Thank you.
Next up is Danny.
Hello. I'm here to say do not renew a contract with Flock. You should not allow Flock surveillance in our city, the city of Ithaca. Firstly, with how incredibly repressive of protests the world is becoming, including locally, it cannot be ignored that that will likely be a factor. We have an incredibly violent government that is funding a genocide and a famine in Palestine, and we should be allowed to protest that. And I know for a fact that Flock surveillance would be used to track and repress the people doing that. It also puts all of our information in an AI database and furthers the fascist surveillance state. Across the country, Flock has already been used by ICE to track and deport people to camps. It has been used to prosecute people seeking abortions out of Texas. It's been used to prosecute people leaving the state to seek abortions. To allow Flock in our city would make people in the city incredibly unsafe, and to ignore that, you're either incredibly ignorant of the world around you or willfully ignorant to the point of maliciousness. And if you continue to allow Flock in Ithaca, you need to understand that the people of Ithaca will not accept that decision.
Jeff Cole.
Yeah, I'd echo those statements. I'd urge the legislature to adopt the ACLU policies that they have drawn up for Flock and similar surveillance companies, and for the legislature not to renew the contract with Flock. There are multiple examples of this technology being used maliciously and illegally. And as a homeless person in Ithaca, I would like to urge the legislature to do all they can to continue to move forward with the Code Blue shelter and the homeless shelter in general. This saves lives. I knew a gentleman last year who died on the streets, and although there were extenuating circumstances, this problem is complicated, but we need all the help that we can get. So I appreciate it. Thanks.
Next up is Jared.
All right. So in talking about the Flock thing, people have said the phrase that we should be using is, please don't renew the contract. But honestly, I want this gone now. I want this gone yesterday. Police usually need a signed warrant in order to be able to tail a member of the public, but not anymore. They can just have 24-hour surveillance, not only surveillance like a camera, but like, I don't need to explain what Flock is to everyone, so I'm gonna move on from that. This is a clear violation of my Fourth Amendment rights, of everyone's Fourth Amendment rights. I think it's unhealthy for a society to be under this much surveillance. It is only going to widen the divides that are already here, strengthen the class divides, and it's going to have a chilling effect on everyone. When you know that you are under surveillance, people don't act the same. They don't express themselves the same way. Protests are one of many examples. These kinds of tools would be horrifying 1984-ish kind of tools in anyone's hands, even more so in the hands of a government that is maybe doing a little bit of a hostile takeover, maybe some, when there's a government doing a hostile fascist takeover, these kind of tools there's no way that these are acceptable. I was never asked about this. I never consented to being under this kind of surveillance. I don't want my town, I don't want my neighbors to be complicit in mass surveillance, because that's what this is. This is mass surveillance. I don't think there's any other way that you can spin this. I don't think that there's any other more fitting word for it than that. Even if we get rid of Flock now, even if we don't renew the contract, this is the first of many. There's going to be other kinds of things like this that come up, and I think it's high time for us to have a digital Bill of Rights, but that's a whole other conversation. This is a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. I don't want my neighbors and my town to be complicit in mass surveillance. That's my time.
Adam Chandler.
Well, thank you for providing this civil platform. It's precious. I'm here to voice my concern about the network of flock cameras that the county allowed into our community. Very quickly, I would like to tell you about myself. I work as a librarian. One of the core values of librarianship is protecting the privacy of our readers. That's hard to do as more of our collection shifts to electronic resources hosted on servers we don't control. In fact, it's impossible to know exactly what is being collected about users or how it is being shared. The same concerns are true of Flock, but the consequences more dangerous, probably. The Flock network and all of its tentacles into other systems is a threat to us, all of us. Thank you.
Nicholas Taylor.
Thank you. I'm here to speak about Flock. I think what you've heard is by and large entirely accurate and very important, but I'd like to add a few things. Flock is known for fabricating evidence at the request of various corrupt police departments. They have participated with ICE and other federal agents in their criminal conspiracy to commit human trafficking, which is what ICE is doing when they bond people into slavery without having a trial. That means that anyone providing data into the Flock system is part of that criminal conspiracy to commit human trafficking. Tompkins County cannot do that. We are better than that. In addition, if none of that convinces you, if you don't believe that Flock is a corrupt company or that our federal government is corrupt, then consider how prudent it is to concentrate everyone's personal data in one place to create a small attack surface that whoever might have bad intentions has a single point to infiltrate. We've seen data breaches at major companies. I've worked as a software engineer for major companies. I can tell you how hard it is to properly secure data. Creating a central repository for that information is a terrible idea. In addition, we know that other police organizations in New York State, the latest information I've seen has said 20% of searches in the Flock database did not come with proper warrants or attribution or even a correct description of the purpose of that search. Knowing that that's what's happening with that information, it is not reasonable or acceptable to give them one iota more. Thank you.
Joshua Ganger.
Hello, my name is Joshua Ganger. I'm a lifelong resident of Tompkins County and Ithaca, and I'm also here to register my opposition to extending the Flock contract. On the way here, I passed and was recorded by no fewer than 3 Flock cameras. To echo what Nicholas said, if you've looked at the transparency page, there's a public audit log of the searches that have been done in the Ithaca Flock system. That lists a reason. Now, when we were considering installing the system in Ithaca, we were told that searches would be done as part of an active investigation with a warrant or, with an investigation number at least. But if you look at the public search audit, you'll see things like test or the letter H or INV. Who made those searches and why? And is there any accountability for them? Is there anyone looking back at the audit log to see if those queries were made with a reasonable explanation? I think also the transparency page and what we've been told is that there's a 30-day retention policy for the data in Flock systems. But who audits that? Who looks at their, do they have an external auditor that can confirm that that data has been deleted? And even if so, if the primary data was deleted, if the photos were deleted and the record of the license plates, data that has been processed may still be stored. Derivative data that can be used by AI search, this type of technology, machine learning models. And I don't think that we have any idea what is actually happening inside Flock or where that data is going or how it's being used. The reason I know that I passed 3 cameras on the way here is because I filed a Freedom of Information request with Ithaca City about the Flock contract. On that contract, there was a URL, there was a public web page that showed the location and configuration of all the cameras that were installed in that system. Anyone could access it. Every community that had Flock installed had a similar page. Since that time, that page has been deleted, no longer public. That behavior does not speak to an air of transparency. If we're to believe that this is going to be a transparent system, we're to know what's happening, we want to have that in Ithaca. Not all communities even have that audit log. We do, and that's a step in the right direction, but I just don't believe that there's any actual accountability for this. Thank you.
Amanda Kirsch-Gessner.
Good evening. I'm here to speak about Code Blue, but I caught that you're going to give a little more money to Ithaca Area Development to record their meetings. Okay, but could we add a couple amendments to that requiring that all their public hearings be held in these chambers, as well as requiring them to actually do clawback on the projects that fail to meet their pro formas? If you're giving them something, please get a little more out of them. Back to Code Blue. I was very, very present for what happened in the Code Blue sheltering system this past winter. Putting twice the amount of beds in Cherry Street location is a horrible idea. You need to have at least 2 locations, one that's a dry shelter. There were countless numbers of individuals that I interacted with personally who were subjected to violent abuses by people who are in active drug dependency, and that is not something that we want to create. It's going to increase the demand for law enforcement to be present. It is the worst thing that you could do to that vulnerable population. Warehouse them in that location at double the density. Unfortunately, we don't have enough local resources to pair them all with social workers and teach them the communication skills and the resiliencies that they need in order to find stability within themselves and within our community. But please be more strategic. I know we have to do something in soon, but you need at least 2 locations for immediate stabilization, and one of those locations has to be a dry location that can absolutely help families, that can absolutely help people who are not in the throes of the wet-related conditions. It's dangerous for everybody. And yeah, the public at large. And you don't want to put that strain on our resources. I do also want to just encourage you to pause making any dramatic financial decisions. This is where you're going to hear me say, please delay breaking ground on the COG. The Center of Government building is the last expense we need to be saddling ourselves to right now, especially with the storm that is happening within our state and within our country. We need to work with the budget we have from last year, and we need to focus on investing those resources into the public health and safety needs of our community. We absolutely need to start collaborating with the counties around us about creating the crucial and essential services required to maintain stability locally. I urge you to pause and delay any decisions for just a little bit more research. I know that we can do better. This is an educated community. Let's not let our egos determine the trajectory. Thank you.
Sam Lubin.
Good evening. My name is Sam Lubin, and I'm here on behalf of Herald Square. I'm here to propose our property located on the Commons as an alternative for the proposed center of government for the county. We have space available equaling and exceeding for what is proposed in the plans of the new center. This could be completed at half the cost in a quarter of the time, the proposed timeline, and that is in regards to sale. We are more than willing to be flexible to suit the county's needs, whether that be lease to buy, or sale, as well as offering flexibility in terms of build out. If we were to build out and have a lease, the total cost would come in at a third of the proposed cost. The cost of the proposed center appears to have risen $10 million in the past 2 years, with no real way of knowing the total cost will be after the center is completed in 4 years' time. All we ask is for your consideration. Thank you for your time.
Josh Dolan.
Good evening. I wanted to talk to you about my fears when it comes to FLOC. You've already heard concerns about FLOC being used by ICE and other federal agencies to locate and kidnap undocumented immigrants. It's happening. Right now we have 6 New York counties that we share data with, and all of which have 287G agreements with ICE. It's not a matter of if, but when our data lands into the hands of a rogue federal agency. Now, I respect Sheriff Osborne. In a lot of ways, he's in the same boat with the rest of us, as you've seen from the recent federal persecution that he's undergone. But no amount of FLOC PR spin is going to convince me that this isn't going to happen. And that's the tip of the iceberg. Over this past week, we've seen the country plunged into a new red scare. The First Amendment no longer applies if you're not willing to toe the party line and turn a digital Klansman into a martyr. When we've got the VP himself and baby Goebbels talking in fiery rhetoric about dismantling the left, they're talking about us. They're talking about the pro-democracy movement, local mutual aid groups, immigrant support networks, and even elected officials. The man that groomed the vice president also happens to be the man behind Palantir, an AI and security company that profits from warfare and the criminalization of American citizens. Peter Thiel is currently building a massive database of all Americans and every detail of our lives. Paired with FLOC, which was designed for perfect compatibility, by the way, this creates a massively overpowered Orwellian tool which will be used to track, harass, and imprison anyone who steps out of line. It's really only a matter of time before one of you steps out of line as well.
Katie Church.
Hi, thank you. And thank you to my fellow concerned citizens who have said their thoughts and done all their research about what FLOC is and what it does. And we're using the name FLOC because that's the particular company that we're partnering with. There are many companies like this. So increased digital security, including maybe passing the ACLU legislation, is only going to help us to protect ourselves against other companies as well in the future. A few things. One, I've heard the sheriff as well as some other legislature members saying, oh, the only people that have access to our data are people that the sheriff gives their okay to. If you go to the Tompkins County Transparency website provided by Flock, you'll see 107 agencies that have access to that, including the U.S. Postal Service, Federal Police. So the Postal Service has a police force and they're federal. That includes Cornell, it includes all these neighboring counties that have signed on with 287G. So every time that somebody wants to look at our Flock data, they don't call up Sheriff Osborne and ask him, they just look at it. Also, the county website does not have the data page that it is supposed to have. The city website does. So if you go to the city Flock transparency website, you can go all the way down to the bottom and you can look at the last 30 days report. In order to do that, you have to download it. So I have downloaded that on my phone a zillion times because I'm showing people how it works. So I have all sorts of people's license plate numbers on my phone. Not because I want them, but because that's the only way to look at it. And the last and most important reason for me about why I got involved with this issue is because we have said that we're a sanctuary county. We've said that we're a sanctuary city. And we've said some things about what that means specifically. And what we're doing right now isn't in alignment with that. And because it's a policy and we're just depending on good people to do good things in order to hold up that policy, and we're telling people they're safe here with us, but we don't actually have a law that does that. We don't have actual rules, we have policies. So it's our job to make sure that we are doing our best to protect the people that we say that we're willing to protect. And if we are not holding up our end of the deal and saying, acting as a sanctuary city instead of just saying we're a sanctuary city, then we are lying, and I'm not willing to participate in that. I also don't think we should be surveilling anyone ever. But my biggest point is that we are lying to people if we continue to collect their data in order to put people at risk like this, and that's not okay with me.
Forgive me if I mispronounce the next name, Nikhil Sahu.
Hi, also here to talk about Flock. So I've heard from current and former elected officials in our community, both through personal correspondence and public reporting, that the nationwide abuses of Flock cameras are not cause for concern in our community, and that we need not address these threats until misuses appear here. To me, this claim betrays a dearth of imagination and solidarity and even realism. It's the responsibility of elected officials to act affirmatively to protect the rights and liberties of our constituents, your constituents, sorry. And Flock itself is certainly thinking proactively as to how they can expand their capacity and use existing cameras for further mass surveillance. And this is not speculation, their leadership speaks about it proudly and publicly. Even restricting our view to the functions laid out in Ithaca's contract with Flock, the purported guardrails are just completely insufficient. Josh and Katie have already spoken on the 287G agreements with ICE maintained by jurisdictions who have access to all of the Flock data collected in the city. So it's not really protected from being used by ICE at all. I was also disturbed to learn that Ithaca's contract with Flock includes support from the company's PR team, which presumably has already been used given the pro-Flock articles that we've seen with quotes only from police officers. Flock has a profit incentive to keep surveilling our community, and I'm concerned to hear that they'll be present at future public meetings, like those two that an assembly member has already mentioned. I don't know what assurances they could possibly offer when we already have a vast amount of evidence that Flock is deeply invested in throwing people, particularly Latina people, into concentration camps. And whatever platitudes this body may offer towards Hispanic Heritage Month ring hypocritical in light of collusion with Flock and thereby with ICE. So I'd ask that you change that. Yeah.
Dick Tracey.
Thank you. Also here to discuss Flock. And a few things that I would like to say about on the topic. When we hear statements from officials lately in the news, we hear a lot about, well, there's not really anything to worry about here because we have guardrails. There's no way for this information to get to ICE. There are communities all across the country where there are already scandals where it's happened. And so that has to be taken into account. If they all had the same guardrails and they didn't work, then we can't just say, well, we'll just wait until it does happen and then we'll do something about it. Wait and see is not an okay an okay approach to a problem where the consequence could be somebody ends up in a forever torture prison in El Salvador because they have a soccer ball tattoo. It is not sufficient when somebody might end up spending 3 weeks in a metal shipping container in a port in Djibouti. It's not enough when somebody might be just stranded on the tarmac in Uganda where they've never been for their entire life because that's where we chose to dump them. Yeah, it's not enough to separate a child from their parents. It's too high a cost to wait and see. And so when we see that there are loopholes, even the dumb loopholes of, when we look at all these stories, you see one story where a cop gives his password to an ICE agent. You see another one where an ATF agent is granted access for an unrelated crime and runs some searches for ICE while he's in there. Clearly the willingness to abuse the system is already there. So another thing I'd like to say, this has been touched upon, but the contract, which I just got to read for the first time today, the contract grants Flock their own use of the data. So they are taking the data and it gives them the right to feed it into training in AI. So we're saying, oh, we have this 30-day retention period, but what about that? Why isn't that being talked about? Why do I have to wait until I read the contract to see that this is in the contract? That seems like an important detail that I haven't seen mentioned in any of the statements from public officials on this topic. And I'm annoyed that I had to wait to read the contract myself to see that language. Spoke with Mike Siegel, who's on the Austin, Texas City Council, where they banned Flock. And got to hear about the process of the audit that they did there. Now, I know that you all are going to have a meeting with people from Flock. I'm wondering, are any of you all going to have a meeting with any of the cities that have already banned it? Thank you.
Reggie Teasley.
Hi, I've lived in Ithaca longer than some of you have been alive. I'm here to speak about the proposed renewal of the Flock products. I oppose renewal. Here's why. Democracy and civil rights are not just something that you have, they're something you do. Repeated actions that violate and negate them make them a dead letter. Our democracy and the primacy of the Constitution are coming apart before our eyes. The Trump administration does not accept the rule of law. ICE and other federal policing agencies and people who may or may not work for any of these agencies are set loose on the public. People have been disappeared, brutalized, deported to conflict zones. Vance and Trump are targeting immigrants and now the left, which includes apparently the Ford Foundation. Remember, Tompkins is a sanctuary city and we can be proud of our history of peaceful activism for human and civil rights and the environment. In this context, continuing mass surveillance of the public in the name of catching criminals is at best naive and at worst complicit in our nation's unraveling. Flock may sound like a panacea for crime, but it's not nearly so positive. I might add, this is apparently targeted at street crime, so it does nothing to identify domestic crimes, corporate crime, or political corruption. Not really getting all that much for the money, are you? To trust that a private corporation could safeguard our information is unrealistic. Where is our critical thinking? Are we aware of Latin American history, U.S. involvement, etc.? If we can't see that these cameras and other tools of mass surveillance jeopardize our privacy and our freedom, then are we capable of protecting our constitutional democracy? Now is the time to awaken, take our duties as citizens and elected leaders to heart, and stand for liberty and justice. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance.
Tim Chachi. Chachi.
Square foot. What the county is proposing, 48,000 of these, $1,000, 41 a square.
Closer to the mic, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Square foot. The county wants to do 48,000 of these at $1,041 a square foot. That's $50 million. That's not fiscally responsible. They just bought Dutch Mill for $90 a square foot. That was a fantastic buy. I totally agree with that. And I'm going to piggyback on top of the first two talkers on Zoom, use the space that we have now, and spend a third of the money. Another example, I won't tell you my house. 61,000 square feet. Cuga Medical took the building up there at Cuga Mall. They did it for $377 all inclusive. And it's gorgeous. They're using buildings that are empty. And again, the first two Zoom calls had a fantastic idea. You can't beat it. CMA building up at Community Corners, we just completed that in, I don't know, 5 years ago. That cost me $282 a square foot to build that. And I have a happy tenant. But to not use these buildings that are empty, it's just a shame. Look at this building you're in now. This thing is gorgeous. Look at what the town of Ithaca did with the post office. It's gorgeous. Use what we have and be fiscally responsible. Spending this kind of money, not a good idea, especially in today's times. We're already spending enough on NYSEG, insurance, and taxes. My family pays well over $700,000 in property tax already, and it keeps increasing every year. You got to take care of the taxpayers in a reasonable way. Thank you.
Maria McCannar. Is there a chance I'm not reading this correctly? I think it says Maria McCannar. Could be Mark. Did you, I'm sorry about that. Okay.
Pick a name, any name. Sorry for my writing. With regard to the Center of Government building, I think we have to have a cost-benefit analysis done. 55 million, 50 million, that's a lot of money. We've got, as previous people have spoken, there's existing infrastructure that can be utilized. And if that's not done, at least put this to a public referendum. See if the taxpayer wants to see us spend that kind of money on government buildings. Because government exists at the pleasure of the electorate, not the other way around. You're here, government is here to make our lives better, right? Not us. We shouldn't be spending $55 million to make government employees feel more comfortable. People have been using the existing buildings for a long time, and okay, modify them, but to break ground and tear down perfectly good buildings seems irresponsible to me. And I'm going to say something very controversial in this crowd, but as a lifelong resident of Ithaca with 60 years of perspective and seeing crime be what it is, I'm going to tell you, Flock makes me feel safer. It makes me feel more comfortable. Gunshots in the city of Ithaca? Are you kidding me? When I was in junior high school, elementary school, high school, at Cornell, we didn't have these shootings, right? The drug trafficking, you didn't have that. Where is this element coming from? That should be looked at. But no, I support Flock. Thank you.
Okay, for the next member of the public that wanted to speak, they asked one of our legislators to speak on their behalf, so Randy Brown.
Yes, thank you, Dan. This is from Mason George. He's a resident in Enfield, and he asked me to read this statement.
Randy, they would like you to speak up, please.
As a resident of Tompkins County and as someone who has navigated the poorly supported shelter system of Tompkins County, in submitting public comment, I am asking one thing: do better. I don't understand why shelter services in Tompkins County lack the support they need. What caused the shelter system to break with severity, with the number of unhoused people exceeding the number of beds available? I am confused. How does the current proposal of breaking ground on Cherry Street secure cold weather protections under Code Blue by November 1st? What could have been done better? If the Burger King location was secured as a shelter and navigation hub, why did it take so long to decide that the cost of code compliance exceeded its value? What could have been done a better choice? Could have been a better choice. How is Tompkins County investing in the future with short-term purchases without definitive resolve? How the government servants invest in a future for others when there is a lack of commitment to choice and follow-through? I understand that there aren't long-term solutions available. The definitive goal for homelessness is rehoming. When there aren't enough places for those currently housed to call home, the cycle continues. So what can this legislative body do? Do better. Tonight, make a choice to devise a plan and follow through before it gets cold. There are systemic barriers for everyone who wants to call Tompkins County home. Build a better system of support for the unhoused so we can build up our supports and connections in our homes. I think that's the end goal. Be better. Respectfully submitted, Mason Douglas.
Thank you. I want to thank all the members of the public who came to speak tonight. We're going to move on now to municipal officials' privilege of the floor. I see Pierre St. Perez from the Common Council representative from the city of Ithaca.
Did you submit a blue card?
You have to submit it.
We missed somebody.
Okay.
Not if you left it there.
Yes, just state your name, please.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm Marianne Grady Flores. Maybe I didn't fill out the blue part, sorry.
No problem.
I haven't been here in a while, but greetings to all of you that I do know, and it's nice to be back. So I'm here to speak about, on behalf of canceling the contract with Flock. I was grateful for the woman that spoke earlier on that side. Well, the both of you, but anyway. I come, in my earlier years, I worked with the United Farm Workers Union with Cesar Chavez in California, but also I actually was recruited right here in Cornell by Irv Hirschenbaum and Fred Ross, who trained Cesar Chavez on how to organize farm workers. So those early years informed me. And on top of that, I married a man from Guatemala. And so my kids are Guatemalan and Irish. My oldest coined a phrase. He said, we're Guadish. Anyway, the point is that I have a sensitivity to people of color and people who are marginalized within our society, and especially we live in an agricultural community here in Tompkins County. We've got dairy farms. There are Guatemalans, there are Mexicans, there are other immigrants that are living here and working here on our behalf. We benefit from this. But what we see happening with ICE, I was just talking with Mary Jo Dudley, who was fired from the Cornell, she was the farm worker program at Cornell. As somebody who's dedicated, 40 years of her life to serving the immigrant community. And she was telling me about how a mother who had a 6-month was taken. Another woman who was pregnant was taken. Another woman with, a little 4-year-old. These are the same ages as my grandkids. I can't imagine what these people are feeling. and I have lost track of the numbers of people that are being imprisoned for profit. And I do not, as was so eloquently said by everybody ahead of me, I do not want our city to be complicit in this process of people being detained. It's unconscionable. So please don't renew this. And the other thing is, I come from New York City. I'm a city kid. I'm from the Bronx. You've heard me tell stories about that before. I'm the last one of my siblings to come back to Ithaca. If you go to move to Ireland and you've only been there 60 years, they call you the blow-in. Well, I'm the blow-in of the Grady's. I've only come back here 30 years. But I heard the guy who was right before me saying he feels safer with flock cameras because of crime. That's not what keeps us safe. Each other keeps us safe. Our neighbors and how we care for one another is what keeps us safe. I hate feeling or seeing all these cameras. I feel like I'm in a police state. And I didn't come back to Ithaca to live like that. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? This will be the moment. Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to municipal official privilege of the floor. Pierre St. Perez, City of Ithaca, welcome.
All right, good to see all of you. And I'm just gonna mentally plan to hear from everyone who've been talking about Flock at the October 1st meeting of council, because I'm guessing you'll be there. I will, of course, mention to council your advocacy, but it's probably, you'll be there. Okay, so finally, I get to talk to you guys about sidewalks. Sidewalks. The city is at tomorrow's meeting going to be going over our plan for sidewalk repairs this coming year. I am very excited about it. It includes substantial repairs to sidewalks across the city, including in the park right below us. Behind us? I'm kind of that way. Okay, in front of me, but behind some of you. I think that sidewalk repairs will be really good. We're also looking at expanding some sidewalks on Cherry Street, possibly, which should also be good. That does bring up just a bit of disappointment, which is, item L on the agenda. We have, on Common Council, we at the city have put forward, I feel, a real good faith effort to work closely with the county on a collaborative effort. And, I remember a meeting here where members of this body asked, hey, could you guys put something substantial forward to really make this work? And council put $800,000 forward to try to address issues in our unhoused community. And look, stuff happens, but it is disappointing to have our collaborative venture at least delayed for the time being. And I don't know, I wish that we could have done better, all of us, to make a reality happen sooner. Additionally, and this is another topic, the Just Cause Employment Working Group's final report will be in front of council at tomorrow's meeting. It calls for more discussion and community outreach to figure out, what direction to go from here, and will extend that working group's lifespan. Yeah, I believe that's the standard updates.
Questions or comments for Pierre? Ann.
So just because when we take up that resolution regarding the homeless shelter and the navigation hub, just to let you know, because you won't be possibly involved in that conversation, this is just because the timing is literally, I don't see it that it's going to work, and I need to make sure, and I'm hoping, we'll see what happens with this, but it's about making sure that people have a place to sleep, because we have a month and a half before we have to have a Code Blue shelter. So and I know my colleagues are committed to working with the city, and so this was put forth as a compromise just to get us through this winter and to keep working together. And I really value our relationship, and I think we've we've had a lot of successes so far working on this, and so let's try not to point fingers, but we are committed to going forward.
Thank you. And yeah, I don't think pointing fingers is productive. Do I think that we could have gotten stuff operational more effectively and more quickly? Perhaps, but that is quite possibly immaterial to what we need to do now, and I concede that.
Randy.
Yes, Pierre, thanks for the update on sidewalks. I think that DeWitt Park has a lot of potential, so hopefully maybe the county can work together with the city on that. I think that I think over the last 2 years, the relationship with the city has improved quite a bit. And I want to appreciate the legislators that have been involved in administration, as well as many departments are working with other departments within the city of Ithaca. So I think that that's all good. Sometimes things don't go the way that you want them to go, and I think we both want them to go the right way. So I think it's a matter of us continuing trying to work together for the legislators who are going to be here next year. Hopefully there's good solutions that we can come up with.
I agree completely. We have to keep working together. We have to make this work, and I'm glad things have gotten better. I don't think I can take credit, but I hope you've enjoyed the reports regardless.
Me too.
Mike Sigler.
I just wanted to congratulate you on the hiring of Anthony Bellamy for the deputy chief. I think that's terrific, just a great move. I also wanted to ask you, is there any type of city movement on how do we address this flood map situation? Are we going to do something with the creeks? I mean, I know there's a plan. Is there any movement towards kind of making that plan a reality? And where do we stand on the sewage reconstruction?
All right, on making that plan a reality, there is a plan, and we're in the figuring out how to turn the plan into a reality in terms of accumulating money, accumulating resources, and figuring out what parts of the plan truly need to be done. We're still in conversations with FEMA about what is the most accurate and best model to build towards. That's ongoing, but that is ongoing while we're also searching for funding to deal with this. Like, our flood maps are a priority. As for the sewage situation, I would say that I believe the Special Joint Committee would be the right venue for that, and I don't want to speak for them. I mean, I wish I could speak for them, but I shouldn't.
No problem. It's just so big, so that's why I ask about it.
Any other questions or comments for Pierre? Pierre, I'll mention we have an open invitation to the city to continue collaborating on this project, including operating the navigation hub out of the Cherry Street site. We are very happy to talk about that, and that could start in 6 weeks also.
Yeah, let's get those conversations going. Let's see what we can do.
Great. We also have an open invitation to continue talking about the spot on Route 13 that we were talking about. We simply can't do it in time for this winter, but that is the only thing that's off the table.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now up to legislator privilege of the floor. Shauna.
Thank you. I just drafted up a little something that I'd like to share with everyone. Good afternoon to my colleagues and members of our community. In the past year, we have witnessed a troubling rise in hostility between political parties and across our communities. One what once may have been a spirited debate has turned into anger, mistrust, and even violence. This escalation is dangerous, not only to our democracy, but also to the people who dedicate their lives serving it. Elected officials, government workers, and staff across every level of public service are facing an increased risk of threats and violence simply because of the work that we do. Locally, we have seen an increase in threats in the form of emails, texts, phone calls, and in-person interactions. In fact, just this weekend, a local Meet the Candidate community picnic was canceled due to safety and security concerns. No one should ever fear for their safety while engaging in public service, attending a public meeting, or carrying out the responsibilities of their job. The normalization of political violence tears at the very fabric of our democracy and our essence of community. A system built on intimidation and fear is no longer a free and just system. In fact, many years ago, we would have looked at other countries that have inner turmoil and had an instant reaction of sympathy and dismay. We must acknowledge this reality, and it is up to every one of us to respond. The responsibility is not one party's alone. It belongs to all of us across political lines, across institutions, and across communities. Ending hostility begins with recognizing each other's humanity. With that said, it doesn't mean we must always agree. Our neighbors, our colleagues, even our opponents are not our enemies. They are people who care about this country, who want to see their families and communities thrive and be safe, just as all of us want to do. To move forward, we must take several steps. Number one, commit to civility in public discourse. This means calling out threats, dehumanizing language, and conspiracy-driven rhetoric whenever we encounter them, whether from political leaders in the media or amongst ourselves. Number two, invest in safety and support for public servants. Governments must provide resources and protection to ensure that elected officials, our staff, and workers can do their jobs without fear of harassment or violence. That's why I'm so adamant in this year's budget for a need to invest in security for our county departments. Number three, promote cross-party dialogue. Regular opportunities for bipartisan conversations, both formal and informal, help to build trust amongst colleagues and reduce the tendency to see political opponents as adversaries. Number four, engage the public in constructive ways. Community forums, civic education, and respectful listening sessions can redirect frustration into problem solving rather than division. This week, we have received emails from people concerned about flock cameras to TCAT bus routes. We are fortunate to have a government that values public opinion and allows access to our elected officials through email, public comment, and over the phone. Likewise, we also have incredible staff that help us navigate these new and pressing issues that concern our constituents. The truth is, we will always have differences. That is the strength of democracy, and that's what makes America great. But we cannot let disagreement grow into hatred or opposition into violence. It is possible and necessary for us to argue passionately about ideas while protecting the dignity, safety, and humanity of every person involved. Violence and threats will never be the answer and should not be tolerated. Let us choose the model, the democracy in our country that we want to protect, one that generations before us have died to create. A democracy that allows us to debate fiercely, but reject intimidation, one that disagrees openly, but resolves differences in a peaceful manner, one that values every voice without tolerating violence. If we do this together, we will not only end the hostility that is dividing us as a nation and community, but also reaffirm the promise of our democracy for many generations to come. I just want to thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Amanda.
All right. You know, I have to write these things down because it can be a little hard. 2 weeks ago, I took a trip to Pittsburgh to see some writer friends and do a book reading. We stayed south of the city near Somerset County, Pennsylvania. My drive home took me right past the Flight 93 National Memorial. And not knowing when I'd be back in that part of Pennsylvania, I decided to stop. It's an awe-inspiring memorial, and just walking up to the main buildings, I started to get choked up. The Visitor Center building is situated on a small hill along the flight path of Flight 93, where it descended and crashed into the field. Down the hill, below the visitor center, the flight path continues, and the memorial includes 40 marble panels, one for each of the 33 passengers and 7 crew members who died. The flight path continues into the field and the final resting place of the people and of the plane and the people on board, which is marked by a large boulder. It's a really fitting and beautiful memorial that elicits a lot of emotion. A walk through the visitor center allows you to follow the timeline of what happened on the plane. As most of you probably know, Flight 93 had a delayed takeoff from Newark, New Jersey on September 11th, 2001, just minutes before the first plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Flight 93 moved west, and somewhere over Pennsylvania, the terrorists hijacked the plane, turning it back to Washington, D.C. to potentially strike the Capitol building. Passengers on the plane began to secretly call their families and friends from the airphones, and they learned that the Twin Towers had been attacked. They realized they were part of this plot, and they quickly and bravely decided together to fight back against the hijackers. They refused to let their plane take out another target. With only 18 minutes of flight time left to DC, they succeeded, and they gave up their lives in the process. At the visitor center, you can listen to 3 recordings of people on that flight who left voicemail messages on their loved ones' answering machines. It's impossible to comprehend the experience of being on a hijacked plane, deciding you're going to fight back against people who are trying to kill you, and calling your loved ones to say goodbye. The messages were hard to listen to say the least. The memorial site encompasses the huge field where the plane crashed and the ensuing investigation took place. There's a mile-long path that encircles the area, and I walked all the way around. It was a brilliant blue sky day, huge puffy clouds, goldenrod blooming, honeybees everywhere, and long views across the meadow. The memorial has become a beautiful resting place for those who died. Obviously, I was in tears most of the time I was there. Mostly, I kept asking myself, why? Why did these people have to die? Why did someone believe mass murder was a good idea? Why do we humans insist on destroying each other? For the entirety of human history, right up until this very day, people have used religion and political affiliations to justify killing our fellow humans. The Geneva Academy recognizes more than 110 armed conflicts happening around the world right now, as defined under international humanitarian law. This does not include the incredible level of gun violence that Americans face every day, which I would call an epidemic. Earlier this year and just last week, we saw more politically motivated murders. And here in Tompkins County, government officials have recently received death threats. We all feel pain. We all suffer loss. Turning that around and using it to kill a person, a group of people, or an entire race of people is an abhorrent, cowardly act. Threatening, attacking, and hurting others does not make us more safe or secure. Revenge does not bring back lost loved ones. Annihilating enemies does not make us strong. Someone much wiser than me once said, "Violence begets violence, hate begets hate, and war begets war." We have to somehow find our empathy again. We must find, at the very least, a basic care and respect for our neighbors. We must find ways to grow our compassion, even for those who are different from us, or, as the Dalai Lama would suggest, especially for those different from us. Compassion is not weakness. It takes immense strength to care for someone you don't know or understand or agree with. On September 11th, 2001, I was in Peru, 3 days into a hike of the Inca Trail on the way to Machu Picchu with 2 friends and my dad, a commercial airline pilot stationed out of Newark, New Jersey. On September 13th, the 4 of us hiked into Machu Picchu at sunrise and experienced the magic of that magnificent sight. When we finally left the ruins and went to the small snack bar nearby, we started talking to other visitors and learned that something bad had happened back home. People said that the World Trade Center towers were gone, and we didn't really believe them. It simply didn't make sense. Up in the mountains, we didn't have a way to confirm anything, but later that day, we took the shuttle down to the small village of Aguascalientes at the base of the mountain. There, every news outlet was talking about what had happened in America. You all experienced it too, so I don't need to talk about the disbelief, the heartache, the sorrow, the pain, but experiencing all that in another country so far away was completely disorienting. Plus the fact that it had happened 2 days prior and we didn't even know about it was very confusing. I grew up in New Jersey and had a lot of friends in the tri-state area. We were able to call home from the hotel in Aguascalientes and find out that our close loved ones were okay, but we were all in a state of shock. We made our way back to Cusco with plans to head back to Lima and fly home. Though with so many grounded flights, we didn't know when we'd be able to get back. In Cusco, a day or two later, I was sitting on the steps by myself in the Plaza de Armas, crying and writing in my journal, trying to understand. 2 Peruvian teenage girls came over to me and sat down. Between their halting English and my halting Spanish, we talked. They asked me if I was from America and if I knew anyone who had been hurt. One of them put her arm around me and said, "Are you okay?" A complete stranger saw someone hurting and chose empathy. She chose to sit with me in my pain and share a moment of grief. She did not have to do that. But it didn't matter that they didn't know me, that we didn't speak the same language, or that I was a guest in their country. They simply wanted to show they cared. I don't even know their names, and I never saw them again. But 24 years later, I remember their kindness. I think that 9/11 was a turning point for America. It was an incomprehensible and surreal event that shocked us to our core. And I think most of us have not recovered from it. But somehow, we must find our way back to compassion for our fellow humans, all humans. The smallest act can mean so much, like simply asking, "Are you okay?" Thank you.
You. Deborah.
Yeah, sorry, guys. I didn't write a speech, and you two are a tough act to follow. But I want to hearken back to one of our commenters at public comment who asked us to take a firm stand against political violence. And I don't think there's anybody at this desk who wouldn't agree with that. But I'm a little confused. When January 6th happened, there was no outrage, at least not on the political right. When Nancy Pelosi's husband was attacked in his home, there was no outrage. When Josh Shapiro's house was set on fire while his wife and children were asleep, there was no outrage. When Kirk and Melissa Hortman were killed, there was no outrage. When Brian Thompson was killed, there was outrage. When Charlie Kirk was assassinated, there was outrage. Further to the point that Shauna and Amanda made, we need to be outraged when anybody's killed. It isn't a left or a right thing. And it's hard for me to accept that the outrage is really genuinely about compassion and concern for fellow humans when it's so one-sided. And especially when it becomes a pretext to crack down on the left when there's absolutely no evidence that the person who shot Charlie Kirk was some kind of woolly-headed, crazed leftist. So let's be honest here. We either care about everyone who's shot. We don't get to pick and choose. If you pick and choose, then you're really not caring. You're just making political hay out of someone's death. That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Randy.
Yes, I'd like to tell people about George Trutt. George passed away about 2 weeks ago, and George was a current member of the Tompkins County Soil and Water Board. He was a volunteer for over 50 years for Grange. He was actually the Grange representative on the Soil and Water. He was also a longtime volunteer for Cornell Crop Extension. 418, his wife, over 40 years were volunteers in that. George was a real gentleman. Matter of fact, most recently, he helped do the chicken barbecue at the Dryden Dairy Days, and he was also doing the chicken barbecue in July at Cornell Crop Extension's fair. So he's a gentleman who just continued to work and volunteer, and unfortunately he passed away, and his wife passed away last year, I believe, but a real gentleman. We'll miss him on the Soil and Water Board. He was also the treasurer. He did a great job, and he wasn't a young man. So, also the Enfield Community Council, they're having their 50th Harvest Festival, September 20th, Saturday, from 11 to 3. All volunteers do this program. There'll be a lot of vendors there. They'll have chicken barbecue. There'll be games for kids. Hopefully it's supposed to be nice weather, and I hope that people will come out and enjoy the people in Enfield.
Thank you. Any other legislators for privilege of the floor? Mike Lane.
This legislature makes me so very, very proud. Tonight we heard from so many people speaking about different issues, but mainly about the flock camera contract, which I've been hearing a lot from my constituents about. And I have to say, personally, I agree with them. We are surrendering our privacy so rapidly, it's unbelievable. And to the folks that understand about mass surveillance, I also say to you, think about your use of social media. Think about your use of online banking. Think about your use of the medical through the internet that so many people have accounts with their hospitals and doctors and things like that. Every keystroke of a computer is public. And people can say they're going to secure the data, and they mean it, but they won't. It'll be made public. That's why Elon Musk, of course, brought in all the people in the, when he was put on the, given the task of trying to get the data on everyone. He brought in the teenagers, as we recall. I'm so very proud of the 3 women sitting across from me tonight. What more can I say? Shauna, what a beautiful statement you read. And Amanda, for you to say that about 911, which was just 24 years ago, can you imagine? And you're exactly right, Deborah. I learned a new phrase this week. It's called selective outrage. Mm-hmm. And selective outrage means you're outraged about things you don't agree with, but you're not out. You don't say anything about the ones you happen that happen the other way. Our society is so important because we protect people and their right to speak. The Attorney General was out there talking about prosecuting people for hate speech. I was so pleased to hear one of our justices on the Supreme Court, Sotomayor, come back and say our Constitution even protects hate speech because it is free speech. We don't like it. We'll never like it. But we have to teach people it's not the right way to do things. But we have to come together. The murder of the right-wing activist was despicable. We can't in any way approve that kind of thing. But there have been other murders, and Deborah, you mentioned them. I think about the murder of George Floyd. Things happen. And, you know, it's so easy to kill people. It's so hard to keep them alive and give them the reason to work together. And our political leaders need to do that. Not to have selective outrage, but to come together when all of things. Be outraged when there's a school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Think about, would there have been a school shooting if their availability of firearms to the shooter hadn't been there? I don't know, but I think there's been over 100 school shootings this year. We can do better, and I believe that America is better than this, and we will get through this dark time, and we will do better.
Veronica.
Thanks. First, sorry I'm crying. I've got some combo of mental illness and neurodivergence, and I always wondered how I'd make it through this job for years without having some kind of public meltdown. This might be the day, but it might not. I don't know what I'm crying about, but Randy, thanks for acknowledging George Trutt. I served on the Soil and Water Board with him too, and his death is a shock and a loss, and he had some of the best, wildest stories about his youth and young adulthood and just settings that are foreign to me, but I wish I'd talked to him more. Also, thank you to all my colleagues for the various statements you've been making. Mike, you're making me cry too by expressing pride in our colleagues, very justified pride. I guess the one thing I also want to say is thank you to all the public commenters today, and in particular, the people who came out to oppose the flock cameras. I wish I could be eloquent, but I can't. So you all are right. You're right that the surveillance system is inconsistent with us being a. Look, and to be honest, we carefully don't actually say that we're a sanctuary county because that word has, I am told by legal professionals that word has legal meanings that we are not necessarily in line with for and can't be in line with, but we do assert that we aren't gonna participate or be complicit in external or higher agencies' enforcement of immigration law or extrajudicial abduction of immigrants or people who seem to be immigrants or whatever the heck is happening now. And yeah, the surveillance system is inconsistent with that. It's inconsistent with
actually supporting our Latino community members. It's inconsistent with taking a stand against political violence, I think, in a way. The cameras themselves are not political violence, but there's a tool that can enable it if people want. You know, kind of like how guns don't kill people, but they sure make it easier. People mentioned the ACLU legislation about community control over police surveillance. I've been meaning to try to bring that forward in some way. I dropped the ball. Colleagues, I'll send you the information about this. It's public. I'll also send you a Forbes article a constituent sent to me about how the Flock CEO wants to end crime in America by just making everywhere under surveillance, and then there won't be any more crime, he says, which is a little dystopian seeming. You've convinced me I can't support continuing having the flock cameras here. And Sheriff Osborne, I'm sorry, I'm coming to this right now in front of everyone and not directly with you, because I know that, he's not here. As someone else said, I respect him a lot and think he's done about, within the context of having the flock cameras and having them be useful for anything, I think he's done the best that he can. I have no concerns that he or his staff would misuse them in any way. The problem is the structure of the system. The structure of the system takes the choice of whether it's safe out. It never gives the choice for it to be safe to the local government. It doesn't. Anyway, I'll shut up. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Sigler.
So I have a couple of topics to talk on. First I do want to thank everybody coming and speaking about the flock cameras. A lot of the concerns that were voiced tonight, though, I would assure you were asked when we first accepted the grant. But that doesn't mean we can't go and revisit those concerns. And I want to thank the sheriff for contacting Flock, having them come over and be open and honest about this so we can actually have a discussion on it. There certainly is a pro-con list to it. I don't pretend that there's not. I mean, I'm obviously concerned about a surveillance state, as many of the people in the room. That is certainly a con. And then the pros are it does actually cut crime and it does actually cut gun violence. But is the pro worth the con? That's something this legislature will have to decide over the coming weeks, and I'm glad we're going to have that discussion with the company and with the sheriff. As for some of the other things that were said, I do want to thank Amanda. I thought your reminiscence and connecting it to your current trip was a pretty powerful statement on 9/11. Certainly, I think you've probably picked the right profession in writing. So congratulations on that. But no, I have found that to be very moving. So I thank you for that, because I do believe that's something we all remember very well. I don't want to say that there's not political violence on both sides, but it doesn't really escape me either that, the person who tried to assassinate the second time, the president, was on trial today. Luigi Mangione was on trial today. And the person who killed Charlie Kirk was also on trial today. And that seems to be a grouping. And then that follows up on the heels of the Ukrainian woman that was stabbed to death on a car, not a political killing, but certainly something that has put the country in a certain place. And I'm not going to pretend to tell people how to grieve. Why one assassination is more important maybe, or has more relevance to them than maybe another assassination. I do believe there was a lot of outrage about January 6th, frankly. Out of 250,000 people, 1,000 people did enter the Capitol, were prosecuted. A lot of them were held without charge for 4 years. I think there was a lot of outrage on both sides, actually, of the aisle of that. As for the state senators, I think there was. That we certainly looked at security much different after that. But if you had asked who those two people were before those murders, you wouldn't have known why they were murdered. And I think even to this day, that's a little murky. And then Josh Shapiro was frankly horrifying, that arson. But let's not pretend that that was not over him being Jewish. And it was an anti-Semitic attack over his stance on the Israeli-Gaza war. So it does seem that when I look at the polls, people do seem to be saying that action and frankly violent action against people you don't agree with is becoming more accepted, particularly between younger people. I do believe the administration made a mistake today, and that was their take on hate speech. And I've never thought that hate speech was something that should be regulated in this country. There are people on this, or were on this legislature that did advocate for that. Cornell, often their General Assembly, believes that hate speech should be regulated. I am not of that mind, and I used to argue against that with Peter Stein while he was, when he was on this legislature. And I never think that you should regulate that for the simple fact that I think it tells people who you are. If you want to out yourself on a certain thing that most of society won't find acceptable, then that's your prerogative. There may be consequences to that. But I do also want to say that I think sometimes people say things and they kind of are throwaway lines at this point. Like when people used to call Bush Hitler, they used to shove them together, if you remember that, with the H, and that was very clever apparently. And then they called John McCain Hitler. And then they called Mitt Romney, probably the biggest Boy Scout that's ever run for president of the United States, when they called him Hitler. Why is that dehumanizing to a large group of people? And why does that lead to violence, actually, is because who doesn't? So you're going to kill a Nazi. So, yeah, that's a problem when people do that and try to dehumanize the other side. And it's just become so cavalier now. And hopefully has lost a lot of resonance with people when people use those kind of terms. So thank you very much.
Are there any other? Lee.
It's been a night for listening and a lot of different points of view here. But let me go back 4 years in time, almost to the week. October 10th of 2021, when I was a candidate for this auspicious position, and I was awakened in the morning when this pager went off and called out for a shooting 200 feet from where I was sleeping in front of my childhood home. And it wasn't random, just gun-involved violence. Drove through the area to get to the fire station, to get to the ambulance, to respond back to deal with the shooting victim. About 2 weeks later, there was a follow-up, retribution being planned, and local law enforcement intercepted high-speed chase through the village of Groton with a crash just a couple hundred feet down the street. And at the time, I was running for the county legislature, and a lot of neighbors asked just what my thoughts were about gun-involved shootings occurring in, of all places, the village of Groton. What was I going to do about it? And
didn't have a good answer at the time, but it certainly wasn't something we were used to out in that neck of the woods, as we say. But I certainly was supportive of the sheriff and local law enforcement agencies moving forward with the GIVE grants. And I'm not at all discouraged that they have been employed to address public safety concerns that we have heard about continuously over the past 4 years. And there is a GIVE camera, flock camera, I'm sorry, in my neighborhood now, in proximity to where that shooting took place. And I haven't had a lot of neighbors talk to me yet about the surveillance aspects, but I have had some talk to me saying, well, I feel a little bit safer. So let's weigh this out, not necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, but you know, I certainly don't see this as all a bad thing, but there's my point of view from my neighborhood. Thank you.
Any other legislators? Okay, for my chair's report, there are a few things I want to talk about. First of all, I just wanted to mention some of the speakers tonight talking about the center of government, and there were two people that talked about the price per square foot. Those people left, so they're not hearing this. But they cited a very high dollar figure for the square footage. And they're not wrong that it's a high number, but they don't have the right number, because that $50 million estimate that we're using for this project includes a lot of other things besides just the construction of the building itself. It includes deconstruction of the current buildings. It includes the moving in and moving out costs. It includes rental and or sale, purchase of other buildings to be used temporarily while construction is going on. And it includes renovations of the existing buildings as we shuffle departments around. Renovations that have been deferred for many, many years that we would have had to pay for anyway.
And furniture.
Thank you. I went to the NISAC conference last week, New York State Association of Counties. I've talked about this before. It is a great organization. They are very, very helpful to us and to all the counties of New York State. They advocate for us. They educate us. And what's really special about them is that they are nonpartisan in a way that almost no other organizations seem to be these days. They are advocating for the needs of the county regardless of the political affiliation. At this conference, there was a presenter from the National Association of Counties, which has the same nonpartisan ethic, and he talked about the federal budget and actions that are going on. So I just wanted to couch that in there, that this is nonpartisan, the speaker was nonpartisan, the organizations are nonpartisan, but the items that they're talking about are real. So his talk was about what he called the big shift, and I just want to read a couple of sentences of the introduction for this report that they've put together. You can find this on the internet by Googling NACO, the big shift. NACO is National Association of Counties. These federal changes present three distinct challenges for counties: increased costs, diminished federal support, and reduced local autonomy. This triad could strain local budgets beyond their capacity, potentially leading to delayed services, workforce reductions, or increased local taxes to sustain essential and required operations. The changes not only place significant fiscal burdens on counties, but also reflect reduced authority of local governments as the delivery of federal government programs is mandated with stricter requirements, but without sufficient financial or technical support. So again, these are real, and this is math. It's non-political, it's not philosophical. It is real stuff that's coming. So I hope we will all continue to think about that in that context. There was another workshop that I went to at this conference. It was about low-income housing and homelessness. I've been to quite a few of these, and there's usually very few solutions in there. They're usually pretty depressing for me. But they said, there was one thing that got said that rang a bell for me of something that I've thought about before. We have had, I believe, 2 housing summits in this county in the time that I've been in the legislature. And, you know, bluntly, I don't really think they were productive. I don't think anything really good came out of them. But in one of them, something got mentioned, and it got mentioned again at this conference that reminded me of this is something I think we should do, which is not to have a housing summit, but have a housing builders summit. And not just all housing builders, maybe all housing builders, but with an emphasis on affordable housing. I think everyone in the business of thinking about housing and homelessness agree that there's not enough housing, that is one of the solutions to the problem, is that we need more building. And so I think we should try to organize a summit of housing builders. I think that would might produce some results. And then the final thing I want to mention is we have this annual contest now for I voted stickers. And on all of the legislators' desks tonight were placed the 2 winners, which I assume means they're ready for distribution to the public soon. I know you can't see these. The public can't see these on the camera, but you will see them soon. There's a I voted sticker and a future voter sticker. They both have dogs on them. I guess it's a trend. And that is my report. I think before we have, well, I'm sorry, the next thing is a special presentation, and that presentation is by Carol Kamen, County Historian from the Tompkins County Historical Commission. Carol, I know you've been waiting patiently to get us to this point, and you are up. So if you will find a place that you feel comfortable at, either up here or over there, anywhere there's a microphone.
You're at the end of the table.
Dan, point of information.
Yes.
Didn't you want to take the vote on those 2 things first and move those out?
I'm going to try to, right after this presentation, we'll do that, and we'll try to get that in all before the break. I think we might be able to do it. We might not.
I didn't mean to put it.
George McGonigal.
With his Santa Claus bag.
City Council alumni.
I said with a Santa Claus bag.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see you all again. The Tompkins County Historical Commission is a great team. I don't know why they chose me to be on it, but they did. So I'm the newest member. And I just want to say that it's a good team. It's full of really intelligent and historians who are really interested in local history and can back it up. And I'm going to pass out this book that the commission has sponsored. It's called The Silo Saga. It's about a farm in Slaterville that I actually mowed the lawn there for several years after this time period. But it's about a family who are an affluent family from the suburbs of New York City who come up to Slaterville after the Second World War, and the farm is still, everything's by hand, no indoor plumbing, and it takes the family through their local adventures, but also the advances in dairy farming locally. And it's really well written, and it tells the story of what happened in this county shortly after World War II. And I'll pass them out. And I'd just like to say that the money you spend on the Tompkins County Historical Commission is well spent. And Carol Kamen, who is our leader, it's like having Aaron Judge on your Cass Park softball team.
Wow.
She's really good, and we're lucky to have her. That's it. Thank you. I'll pass these out.
Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Okay. I I think, well, let's go to Resolution L. No, sorry, Resolution K, which is the TC3 Board of Directors appointment. Mike Lane, is that one yours?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Let me just get to it.
Sure. Take your time.
I'm very pleased to move Resolution K, appointment to the Tompkins Cortland Community College Board of Trustees. And I so move.
Is there a second?
I'm doing the one that's in your red folder, which has added the name of the appointed person, Frank Krupa.
Mike Sigler has seconded. Discussion. Mike.
The Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee took this process very seriously. We advertised over the summer for people who were interested in becoming, serving on the Board of Trustees of the community college. We have 3 seats that are appointed by our legislature. Cortland has 2, and the governor has 4, plus there's a student trustee. We were very pleased to receive 13 applications, very, very good applications for the most part. And from those, the committee chose to interview 4 individuals. And I'm very pleased to say that the one that we have selected for your consideration is Frank Krupa, who I believe everyone knows, who had served as the Commissioner of Whole Health and for, I think, 14 years. And I think his knowledge about the community college and his interest in workforce and other things that will make him an excellent member of the Board of Trustees of the community college. So I'm pleased to bring that forward.
Any other discussion? Let's have a vote then, so we can raise our hands because we're all here. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Congratulations, Frank. And if you would like to come up and say anything, you are absolutely welcome.
You're going to give me a free microphone. No, just kidding. Thank you for the opportunity. I really do appreciate it. Looking forward to helping the community college, of which I am a big fan. I live in the village of Dryden. It has a huge impact on our community, but I know the broader region as well. And just looking forward to being a part of that and hopefully living up to your expectations, representing the county's interests. And I'm always open to communication or conversation about this as it moves forward. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks for
We're going to put Frank right to work as the Board of Trustees of the college meets tomorrow evening.
All right. Okay. Shall we try to get Resolution L in before the break?
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
I do have a resolution that needs to be added that I think I forgot to mention.
I'm going out of order, so.
Okay, gotcha.
But we're not, there's nobody waiting for that one, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get,
No, that's right. That's true. Yep.
let people go that are
Okay.
waiting for things. Thank you, though. We will get to it, I promise. Okay. So let's do Resolution L. That is, oh. Okay, right. Thank you. I was misreading. I'm sorry. So Ann Corman, I believe you're going to move this. I'm sorry for confusion.
Yes, I'd like to move Resolution L, authorization to develop Code Blue Shelter at 227 Cherry Street for the 2025-2026 season, and continue collaboration with the City of Ithaca towards a homeless shelter, or homeless services navigation hub.
Is there a second? Randy seconds.
And it's not a very long resolution, so please bear with me. I'd like to read it because it has a lot of good details, so thanks all those who contributed. Whereas the county is mandated to provide emergency shelter for anyone in need during the time of year when temperatures drop below 32 degrees with wind chill, also known as code blue season. And whereas recognizing the benefits of having multiple services in one location directly accessible to individuals experiencing homelessness, the county legislature adopted Resolution 2025-167, authorizing the county to co-locate the Code Blue Shelter and City Homeless Services Navigation Hub in the same location at 100 Commercial Avenue, otherwise known as the planned location. And whereas upon further analysis of the planned location and necessary upfits required to operate a Code Blue shelter to include floodplain mitigation, water service upgrade, HVAC, plumbing, fire alarm system, and restroom and shower installation, it has been determined that it is not feasible for the location to be ready by November 2025 for the 25-26 Code Blue season. And whereas the county owns 227 Cherry Street, known as the Cherry Street location, for the purposes of building a new emergency shelter facility, and this property includes suitable physical structures and interior space sufficient for Code Blue sheltering and co-location of the navigation hub if the city desires to do on a temporary basis. And whereas the county's new emergency shelter development project will not commence until the fall of 2026 at the soonest, and utilizing the Cherry Street location will not delay the development of an emergency shelter. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature authorizes the county administrator or their designee at the Department of Social Services and the County Facilities Department to develop the Cherry Street location utilizing Tompkins County Code Blue allocation for the purposes of Code Blue sheltering during the 25-26 Code Blue season. And further resolve that the county administrator or their designee is hereby authorized to continue the ongoing negotiations and collaborations with the city to develop a co-located homeless services navigation hub and future Code Blue sheltering for subsequent seasons. So I think it's pretty self-explanatory, so thanks again for all those who put that in there.
Thank you. Discussion. Shauna.
Yeah, I know that we've had a lot of discussion on this topic, and I just want to voice that I am disappointed that there was not a collaboration between the county and the city of Ithaca. I think that if we really want to move the needle on homelessness, that there has to be a collaboration. And so I hope that in the future we can have access to information sooner. I know that the conversation started in March about Burger King, and this legislature was not informed, in my opinion, in a timely manner. So we cannot make those decisions quickly enough in order for us to have a Code Blue at that Burger King location. So I do hope in the future we are able to have access to information sooner so that we're able to make better decisions. And I hope in the future we're able to collaborate with the city of Ithaca. Like I said, we're not going to solve this alone as a county. We're going to have to bring in partners in order to really help our community. Thank you.
Other discussion. Dan Nolan.
I'm actually not going to be voting for this, not because I necessarily disagree with Annie's compromise solution, but because I do believe that we conducted ourselves in not the best manner with this. I think that, to Shauna's point, this was the preliminary details of this were hammered out in March, was it? I wasn't here, but it was. And we didn't find out that this center, which one of the whereas clauses in here states, we didn't find out that it wasn't suitable until like what? August, a couple weeks ago. You know, as someone who represents the city, I think it's imperative that we work with the city and we work closely with them, and we do so in the best faith effort that we can. I just don't think that happens. So I'm going to be voting against this one. Again, not because I disagree with necessarily the actual text of this, but because of what happened before that. And I hope that we can find a solution moving forward.
Any, Randy?
Yeah, we're in a time crunch here, obviously, and that's part of why this is happening. So my question is for Corsa. Is it going to be, are we going to be open in time?
Yes.
Okay. All right. You heard it right here. Thanks.
Veronica.
Just briefly, I'm going to be voting for this, though I basically agree with what my colleagues Shauna and Dan have said, and I wish we had gotten things together earlier. I do think that this resolution is the best path forward for this season now, and I think it is the best path forward as of like a month ago, and what is in the past is we can't go back in time. We can try to do a collaboration next year. I know it's in the resolution, but just to reaffirm, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that all of us around this table would like to pursue the intended collaboration with the city next year, even as early as the spring. We can't do it now at the cost of having a place for emergency code blue sheltering come the code blue temperatures.
Anybody else? Ann.
I don't usually implore my colleagues to vote on something, but I'm asking folks, if you agree with this compromise, please vote on it. If you just have a statement, you've made your statement. What has happened in the past when people have done that is sometimes the resolution does not pass. So if your intent is to not have this pass, vote against it. But so just think about for this one and in the future when you do that, you can make a statement, you can write an op-ed, you can talk to write something on Facebook, you can send emails. There's lots of ways you can talk to reporters, but this is about a compromise for us to go forward. It's not about pointing fingers, as I said, and people, talked about, political violence and all that. I think every chance we get to move forward and to not point fingers and to work together, to me, this is about working with the city and keeping our hand out and say, let's do this together and let's keep going. And we invite the city to please work with us, hopefully have the navigation hub, if at all it can work out, and we're going to work with you at Cherry Street. And because I think that would be a good practice too about going forward, is seeing what, getting some of the kinks out of the system to see how we can, stand up this, the Code Blue plus the navigation hub together. And we get some of that. We're going to learn a lot of different things so that if we go to the Burger King site next year, we're going to have a lot of those things worked out. So I'm hoping people will, think about voting for this. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect, but this, I think, is the best thing that, we can come up with at this point to go forward.
Shauna.
Yeah, just for clarification, I did not say I'm not voting for it. I'm not supporting it. I will be supporting it because it's the only path forward for us. But I do disagree with the fact that we were not given the information, and I have concerns about that. So I wanted to make that very, very well known about my concerns.
Thank you. I was specifically for one person at least.
He's entitled to his vote.
Mike Sigler.
Yeah, I just was going to say, I'm definitely voting for this. I mean, we're 2 weeks out from October, and this is the option. That doesn't mean that mistakes weren't made, but once we get past this, I hope we will address those. We can do those in a special meeting. We can do those however you would like to do those. But yeah, clearly there was issues in the process here, but I do think that there's a path forward because the city's not going anywhere, the county's not going anywhere. We're going to be partners a long time. So I certainly think that we can work out any bad blood that may have happened, but I think to get this through is the most important thing right now, because again, it's going to get cold soon. So thanks.
Dan Nolan.
I just want to stress one other thing. I don't think we worked with the city, and that's my biggest thing. I think that we decided we were going to do something. We decided it at a very, very late juncture, and we did so in a posture with the city that was either we were going to do it, and they could maybe participate on some level if they wanted, but if not, we're going to do it anyway. And I understand that sometimes you have to do stuff like that. I don't think that this was necessary. I think this was an unforced error. I don't necessarily think we had to go about it this way. And that's just my.
Anybody else? I'm going to speak. The phrase was used that this wasn't done in good faith, and I object very strongly to that. It was done in good faith. There were some construction issues that were found late in the process, and we have a legal mandate to open a code blue shelter. Those are not bad faith occurrences. Those are circumstantial occurrences. So I really don't appreciate hearing that it was not done in good faith. Any more comments? Ready for a vote then? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is 10-1, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. We are now going to take a 10-minute break, and we will come back and keep going on the agenda.
Yeah, a couple times I got it.
Till party's over.
Thanks for saying that.
You're also wearing a sweater. I know.
Okay, we are back in session. So let's see, we're going to get that resolution on the agenda. We're going to go to the consent agenda because it turns out there is somebody waiting for that, and then we'll go back to the regular order. Acceptable to everybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let us go to item 10, resolutions to be added to or withdrawn from the agenda. Shauna?
Hi there. I would like to add Resolution M, ID 13566, authorization to submit community development block grant application and designating required certifying officials environmental health.
Is there a second? Ann seconds. Any discussion? Okay, we need 10 votes to add this to the agenda. Let's have a vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I'm still a little unclear. Is there a staff person waiting for this resolution or not?
Well, David West is here for something. I don't know.
Okay, because there's...
It's Resolution G.
Probably just for entertainment, right, David?
It's not that board.
Okay, because it's resolution G, he might be waiting for it too. Okay. Well, David, let us know what you're waiting for, and we'll keep going. Let us go to the consent agenda then, and then we'll go back to the regular order.
Wait, pardon me.
Yes.
Yeah, so could we at some point move G up?
It's on the consent.
It's on consent,
Oh,
yeah.
that one's on consent. All right.
Yeah, that's why I'm going there next. Thank you.
Never mind.
No problem. Will somebody move the consent agenda? I do have to read it. Thank you. Okay, we also have some appointments. So the appointments from the Housing and Economic Development Committee to the Strategic Tourism Planning Board, Sarah Barden, at-large representative. From the Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee to the Environmental Management Council, Ace Dufresne, 2025-2026 student representative number 1. From the Government Operations Committee to the Tompkins County Library Board of Trustees, Linda Bartnick, trustee. Resolution A, budget adjustment, county administration, authorization of streaming services for the Ithaca Area Economic Development Incorporated, IAED/TCIDA, ID number 13527. Resolution B, authorization to accept a grant from the New York State Archives, County Clerk, ID number 13511. Resolution C, extension of Help America Vote Act, HAVA, operations expenses by Board of Elections, Shoebox Grant, ID number 13493. Resolution D, Board of Elections, BOE, reallocation of grant money from 2024 to 2025, ID number 13492. Resolution E, acceptance of grant funding from the New York State Department of State Division of Local Government Services, ID number 13480. From the Housing and Economic Development Committee, Resolution F, designation of Tourism Promotion Agency for State, ID number 13546. Resolution G.
Remove G, please.
G has been pulled. Resolution H.
Pull.
H has been pulled. Okay, let's have a vote then on the consent agenda. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Okay, how about we go to Resolution G, because we think that is being waited for. Who from HED is going to move that? Veronica.
I can move it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to move Resolution G, authorization to disperse county funds to the Community Housing Development Funds, CHDF, Round 25 Awards, ID number 13528.
Seconded by Ann. Discussion. Randy.
Yeah, I pulled this because this is significant funds that we're funding a lot of various things and for housing, both for home ownership and for rental apartments. Majority of the grants appear to be going to Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services. And I was just curious to share with the public, how does this process work? so they understand. I know there's various rounds of this is done, and how much money is in this account that we're giving away.
Who would like to address those questions? Ann.
I think at this point, it's a little hard to go through and explain it. It has been explained before, and I would say I know David's here, but
David West here.
There's a whole process, but, okay, David.
John is here too and administers the program, and I think is ready with more numbers and details, but I thought I'd just jump in if there was a vacuum and say that the Community Housing Development Fund is a partnership between the county, the city, Cornell as the founding partners. Cornell puts in as much combined as the city and county put in. And then we also have associate members, the town of Ithaca and town of Dryden, that contribute to projects that are in their municipalities. The funds that the county puts in is what's called program income from previous grants that we got. So the county got grants from HUD, long in the past loaned them out for home loans for low-income people. As those loans have been paid back, that's money that we have to recycle into the community, and that's the source of the funds that we've used. So it's not coming out of the county budget or county taxes. It's funds that we granted out and received back that were originally federal. Every year we put out a call for projects, and there's an application process. There's a committee, 2 committees actually, that review those applications. So we have a committee of experts called the Application Review Committee that reviews the technical aspects and makes recommendations to the Program Oversight Committee, which has representatives of all of the bodies that contribute funds. And that's the group that makes the allocation, makes the recommendations, and then depending on where the funds come from, in this case, funds that come from the county, we have the resolution that to the county. Funds that come from the city will have a resolution. Funds that come from Cornell, they deal with internally. And new this year is funds that are coming from the IDA that are from projects that opted, instead of building affordable units, to contribute cash to this fund that then goes to fund new affordable units. So it is a very large round, and it's because we have this money from some of the larger downtown development projects as their contributions have come in.
Thank you. That's David West, housing planner, senior housing planner, something like that. Tompkins County Planning and Sustainability.
Easy for you to say.
Shauna, did you also want to, Shauna Stevenson, did you want to add something?
We can't hear you.
We're not getting your audio, Shauna.
Okay.
If you have specific questions about amounts, I also have that kind of documentation up, but a lot of it is in the resolution.
Randy, did you get your questions answered?
No, it's in the resolution. I think the write-up about it was very good. Explaining everything, I did read that. It was more for the public's use, but I didn't know how much. I've heard about the money that's in this account, but I'm not really sure how much is in there. And do you routinely decide that you're going to give away X amount of it percentage-wise, or how is it? Is it just done by application, or how does all that work?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm so sorry about those technical difficulties. So as David was mentioning, the IDA funding is coming from their workforce housing policy, and we had received a lot of income from that fund in particular, which was really unprecedented in this program's history. Normally, we only have about $400,000 from the contributing partners to distribute among the applicants. But in this case, we had over $3 million from the IDA workforce housing policy. So we were able to fund all of the projects that the Program Oversight Committee recommended at those amounts because the Program Oversight Committee felt that that was an appropriate amount to allocate, but also because we had the funding to do so. And in fact, we actually used less than half of that available funding just from the IDA workforce housing policy. So I can find that exact number, but we still have quite a bit of that particular funding source left, and through 2027, the contributing partners also continue to contribute their share, which is $100,000 from the county, $100,000 from the city of Ithaca, and $200,000 from Cornell University. And we also have contributing municipal partners as well. The Village of Dryden contributing $50,000 and Town of Ithaca contributing $50,000 for projects that are happening in their municipalities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Were you, David and Sean, were you also waiting for that other resolution, or is that not you? Resolution that just got added to the agenda?
No, that's not us. We've been helping coordinate on that, but it's really Whole Health that's the lead there.
Very good. Thank you so much then.
Yep.
Okay, then we are going to go back to the regular order, and we are up to reports from staff. First up is County Administrator Corso Comfy.
Thank you. First and foremost, thank you all for messages that were very much needed, and I appreciate being here with all of you. I did miss the meeting as well, and I tried to tune in. 4 hours difference, so it was interesting and dozed off a few times. So thank you for all the support and kind words that I have received. So we will be starting the interview process for the new highway director, I believe, tomorrow. Our hope is to be able to fill the vacancy as soon as possible. And that process will kick off real tomorrow, and we're hoping to get that done, hopefully wrap that up by the end of the month. The budget process is ongoing. As I indicated, I tried to tune in. I know there's a lot of difficult choices that we all face, and we try as much as we can as administration to put before you a recommended budget that was reasonable and also in line with your expectations as well, considering the fact that the gap that was presented based on the request was so significant. Sometimes we didn't really develop, let me put it this way, a framework of what adjustment that can be made. We initially started the process by evaluating departments and making those adjustments internally, and then agencies were the final part that we actually tried to make further adjustments after we reviewed the submission from department. So I know it's going to be tough process for all of you to decide, considering the fact that we don't have a lot of leeway available in terms of fund balance and other things. So we need to be able to identify revenue sources for any additional proposal that we want to capture, because whatever additional changes that we make in terms of appropriations, we need to make sure, we need to be aware that that may affect us levy levels, or we need to also look at other changes that has to be made to accommodate those recommendations that will come forward. So it needs to be clear in terms of our decision points and how we move forward through the budget process. Other update I have here, we have executed a contract with Volunteers of America of Upstate New York to partner with us for the development of the shelter at Cherry Street. We are very excited. We had our kickoff meeting earlier on this week with a consultant. We are hoping that we'll be able to get everything set up and be ready to submit the application for the HHAP funding right at the time that it opens next year, so that because it's a first come, first serve, so we want to put forward an application that can be supported and so that we can get the funding for it. So we're very happy. We're also talking to Volunteers of America to partner with us in our broader county shelter needs. And we are hoping that they will be able to, we can leverage on their experience to support various aspects of our shelter services. Let me see here. Yeah, that's all my update today. Thank you.
Questions or comments for the County Administrator? Randy.
A few questions, Corsa. The Code Blue shelter that's going to be on Cherry Street for this season, are we going to have county employees managing that, or is there going to be a contract with somebody, or what's your thoughts there?
Our primary goal is to identify a service provider. We learned a lot of things with last year, so we are hoping that, and also that basically took away a lot of services from various departments, not just DSS. So the goal right now is to identify a provider to partner with us in providing Code Blue services. Okay. And discussions are ongoing. We are hoping that we'll be able to provide you a briefing hopefully by the next legislature meeting as to how that service provision will be.
Great. Good luck with that. The other thing, we talked about in this budget capital meeting about our 2026 budget and how we're going to figure out funding for the airport. And 1.2 million or something like that was going to come from a sales tax on Airbnb. So my question is, one, how did that calculation come forth? How did we come up with that number? So that's my first question.
Yeah, thank you. So we work with Nick, Sustainability and Planning, who is responsible for our tourism. So he did projections based on the new law that was passed, and estimated that sales tax on short-term rentals will generate about 1.3 million, based on what we are receiving on our 5% room tax. So that analysis was done. So we decided to propose. That's where we got a 1.1 million from. That is from the 1.3 million estimated increase in our sales tax revenue which is the new source of revenue, really.
So that it's a true sales tax that would come in with our sales tax, regular sales tax funds somehow?
Yeah, absolutely. That will be reported just like it will come in straight in. So if the legislatures support the proposal that we put forward, then we will need to make certain adjustment into our sales that will come in
to the general
of our distribution or our complicated flow chart, and that will be up there somewhere before the other distribution comes in.
Okay. I think I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Corsa? Thank you, Corsa. Next up is our Deputy County Attorney, Holly Mosier.
Well, the only update that I'm aware of is we're hiring an assistant county attorney, and we completed our interviews. We interviewed 4 candidates, all very good candidates, and when Maury gets back, he's going to be selecting the person to make an offer to. So hopefully within the next couple months, we'll have an assistant county attorney.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Holly? Okay. Oh, Mike Lane.
Is there office space for him or her?
Yes, there is. Since we moved down to the first floor and to human resources, we have a lot of space. We're very happy there, and there is a spare office for the new hire.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Next up is our Deputy Director of Finance, Drew Brayman.
Good evening. Very quick update. Just wanted to let you know that we've been participating this week, several staff members from finance in the Government Financial Officers Association, GFOA. They're having best practices seminars online all week. very insightful, giving us some great ideas to look at and pointing out some things that we do very well here in Tompkins County. So I'm proud to say that. The only other update Darrell wanted to pass along for tonight too is that he continues to have dialogue with Insero on the library audit. We're wrapping up our final audit, and we have one last audit in 2024 for the airport PFCs that I think a few of you have been educated about over the years. So, any questions?
Questions or comments for Drew? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I believe this brings us to our standing and special committees. And let us start with the Downtown Facilities Special Committee. Randy Brown, Chair.
Our next meeting is not till October 7th, and we're expecting some potential drawings from Whole Architects. I will say that we've been, and this has been an ongoing issue, that where we need to get information directly from Holt before our meetings so we can get them in the agenda packet. And one most recent information we've requested is information on the study of how many people are coming into the various departments. We've asked for it a few times, and for whatever reason, we have not received it. And we did get a report on it in a presentation, but we'd like to see the backup information on that. I was invited to tour the Herald Place on the Commons, and staff was also invited, but they had many other things going on. And Martha Robinson invited me, and I took a tour of Herald Place. It's a nice, big, beautiful building on the Commons. And toured various spaces, and one of the floors is pretty much finished and ready for occupancy, and the other floors are unfinished, and other than on the first floor, some work's been done for some future tenants. And I know the Commons well, excuse me. I spent 14 years there. It would be less expensive for the county to move to a facility that's already built, probably about half the cost of what's going to cost us to do what we do, maybe more once you retrofit and whatnot. There are some limitations to the building. Parking is always an issue. And some of the, we're used to higher ceilings here, and some of those ceilings aren't quite as high as we're used to here for staff to feel not so boxed in. It's in a good location, and it's got a full basement, so it could have a lot of storage as well. And the owners of the property are obviously very interested in working with the county any way they can. I think it's not a good spot for some of the departments, obviously. We've got some departments that should be right here. Clerk's office, and those kinds of things would obviously be close to the courthouse. I think is really important, those kinds of things. It may be an opportunity for something like workforce development, something like that, for their space. And I think the county should consider all those options as far as, especially when you look at the cost here. The capital cost is going to be someplace around $2.5 million a year once we bond for this project. That's a lot of money. And we know we're scrimping for money for that. I will share my experience on the Commons again. So people begged money from me twice when I was on there for an hour. People smoking marijuana in numerous places on the Commons. A dog, trying to bite another dog, and just yapping. And then, of course, an electric bike flying down the middle of the Commons at noon, and nobody there to change any of that. I think the Commons is really important to the city and to the county. We need a vibrant downtown, and I think that the county's presence here is important. So, I'm sure that.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Oh, Mike Sigler has his hand up. Yep.
Just a question. I don't know if you have the answer to this. Is there a loading dock?
There is. I can't remember, there's not a loading dock. There is access in back and access to the basement and 3 elevators, lots of elevators.
I bet you there is.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions or comments for Randy? Of course.
I just want to emphasize on what Dan said earlier. The $50 million project is not just for construction. It includes renovation of this chamber and also repair of the old jail. So the actual construction budget in the whole central government project is about, I think, 35 or 37 million or so. So we need to be able to have that conversation. Even if we are not going to build a new building, that renovation will still have to be made. So we need to make sure we are quantifying everything in terms of what we're going to do with the central government project. It's not just construction of the new building, but the whole project in itself.
Veronica.
This is probably not a question for now, maybe the next meeting, but the one thing that I keep thinking of with this Herald Square idea is that we wouldn't own the building, not entirely, right? And that it seemed like one of the big selling points of building a new building is the county would own it. There would be no rent. There would be, you know, if we needed to change something about the building, we could just do it. So I guess my question is, yeah, how big of an issue is that? And does it, and if you purchased only, floors of the building, but not all of it, what's that like? Some of this is probably a question for Arel, and some of it is just anyone who knows buildings better than I do.
I think that it's a math equation, but also it's a matter of, we know our buildings need repairs. And we know that we're going to, if you own a building, you're going to have a $700,000 roof repair. If you rent, you don't. It's built into your rent long term. And you can, and it's better to, it's easy for budgeting because you know this is going to be my rent cost. It's going to escalate every year, 3%. You just know what it's going to be. And the major repairs are done by other people. I think it's easier for budget planning, but it's no investment, right? So this building would be paid off that we're building in 30 years, and then we would own it. It was still going to, probably in 30 years, it's need probably $5 million of work. You know, it's just the way it goes for buildings. So I think that's more of a strategic thing we needed to talk about as to what's the right way for the county to go. And I think that when you look at downtown facilities, and we have quite a few of them, and I think that that's where the strategy is really important. And Susan, forgive me that I'm picking on the airport or on the library again. But I think that location within 5 or 7 or 10 years is going to be a bigger building. It should be a 4-story building, and maybe the library's still there. And maybe it's a developer that does it, and we rent the first floor, or maybe we don't. Maybe we rent the upper floors. But I think that we should be looking at this strategically as far as what is really going to cost us long term for everything that we provide. So.
Anything else for the Downtown Facilities Special Committee? Thank you. Next up, Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Lee Shurtleff, Chair.
Facilities and Infrastructure will be meeting this Thursday, the 18th at 9 o'clock right here. And it looks to be a rather crisp agenda, but there will be a discussion on the 5-year capital plan update. And it's good timing as we roll into this future discussion about the capital plan.
Thank you. Questions or comments for Facilities and Infrastructure Committee? Deborah.
Yeah, I'm glad it's going to be crisp because we've got that budget presentation for the underwriters at TCAT at 11:15. And while I have the floor, if anyone's going to that and isn't going to be at Facilities and Infrastructure, you can tour one of the new electric buses at 10:30 a.m. on Thursday.
Thanks, Deborah.
Mike Lane.
Lee, did you want to mention anything about Airport Day?
Good pancakes.
I'd be glad to do it.
Please do, Mike.
On Saturday, we had the annual Airport Day, thanks to our administration at the Tompkins, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport. It was fabulous. It started, of course, with the traditional breakfast sponsored by the East Hill Flying Club. And there were just so many exhibits, so many of the different agencies and emergency responders who were there, fire, police, helicopters, airplanes. They had a good draw of people. We had good weather. And I just think it's a terrific thing. There was a 4K run, or 5K run, I guess it is. And that's one time a year that it's scheduled so that the runners can actually run on the runway. And I understand that there were 400 entries for that, 100 more than last year. I can't tell you who won it, but you could probably find out. But it was quite an event, and kudos to all the people who participated.
Randy.
Yes, in the meeting on Thursday, what the plan is for each building, we should understand what the cost is going to be for the repairs that need to be done there. So each building, for example, where the, as we just heard from the History Center, the roof on that building needs to be replaced fairly soon. And there's no reserves necessarily for those things, and we have a limited budget to do all those repairs. So we should understand all these significant repairs that need to be made to these buildings, and hopefully we'll get that and understand that from each building that we own. So.
Anything else for the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee? Okay, thank you, Lee. Next up, Government Operations Committee, Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you. I was not able to attend government operations, so I'm going to look to Mr. Lane to give us a report.
Well, we certainly missed having our chair there. I don't think you've missed very many meetings.
I have not.
And we certainly appreciated Shauna joining the group so we would have quorum. But we were glad to share Amanda because she had a wonderful story to tell us tonight. Couple of things. There was a report from our county clerk, Maureen Reynolds, about a grant opportunity from the New York State Archives in which she's going to be able to digitize all of the naturalization records from the county going back to probably when we started doing it in the 1890s. So that's be a big addition to the online availability of county records that we're going to have. So kudos to her for getting that grant available. The other thing we talked a little bit about is something that I brought forward, and thanks to Maury Josephson for researching this and putting together a proposed resolution and a couple of proposed resolutions. And that is an amendment to our charter. I have served on all the charter committees since I first came on the legislature. We've made a lot of good updates over the years, including changing how we fill vacancies, which used to be filled by the towns on our board, believe it or not, or in the city. But now, of course, if there's a vacancy, we have a special election. One of the things that we talked about in just about all of our committees was the number of legislators. After each decennial census, we have reapportioned based on the new census data that we've had. And with that, we have changed lines for different districts. Just before 2010, one of the things that the legislature wanted to do was to have a process by which there would be an independent commission who would draw the lines. to try to do away with the kind of things that we're seeing across the country all of a sudden right now, which is the gerrymander or the gerrymander, as some people would pronounce it. Not that we probably had that before at the county level, but we wanted to have, this was a good government issue. And so the legislature at that time passed a resolution appointing an independent commission that actually drew the new legislative districts after the 2010 census. Always before that, going back to when the legislature was formed in the late 1960s, early 1970s, there had been 15 legislative districts. After 2010, it was recommended that we go down to 14 from an odd number to an even number. We had that for a number of years. We're still with 14. The problem with that is sometimes you get a divided vote, and sometimes it's on a particularly important issue. And if there's a divided vote, whoever's proposing whatever is on the table, or the election of a leader or a chair, for example, that does not pass. And we had an issue with that a few years ago. So we've talked in the charter committees about having an odd number of people on the legislature. And so this, what I have proposed, and I want to say two things. One, what we're doing tonight is simply scheduling a public hearing. And two, this would not take effect for any new people that are being elected right away. It would only take effect after the 2030 federal decennial census, at which time there would be a redistricting commission again. And so what I'd like to propose is this resolution, which authorizes a public hearing on Local Law D of 2025, a local law amending the county charter to redefine the size and provide that the legislature shall, upon reapportionment, have an odd number of members. So we would, after 2030, we would have either 11, 13, or 15 members on the legislature.
So are you moving Resolution I?
I am.
Randy seconds. Discussion. Mike Sigler.
I just have a question, actually. Mike just said 11, 13, or 15. Why would it not, I'm not recommending this. Why would 17 not be an option?
Well, it could be, but basically most legislatures, if you look around the state, are reducing their numbers. And I would think that going back to 15 would not be objectionable, but if they wanted to go to 13, for example, we could do that as well.
No, I think it'd be preferable. I remember when we were redistricting, we had to go up in number because it had to be within 5% or something like that. So if our county continues to grow, I would like to see us go down maybe to 15, but I'm concerned that that 5% rule would force us into a larger legislature, if that makes any sense.
Now, if I can jump in, the 5% rule was just that it can't be more than 5% difference between districts.
Oh, okay. So we could have shrank it then. Oh.
Yeah, in fact, it's one of the, when I went to some of the meetings of the group, they were actually considering 13 at that time.
Okay.
Mike Lane, I just want to clarify, you're moving the resolution that was in the red folder?
I am.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they made, we made a change in the definition, or I'm sorry, in the title, excuse me.
Further discussion? Okay, ready to vote then on Resolution I? All in favor? Any opposed? One opposed. That motion carries 10-1.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any other questions for Government Operations Committee? Okay, next up is Health and Human Services Committee, and we have Shauna Black, Vice Chair.
Great, thank you. I do have a resolution that was added to the agenda, and I would like to move Resolution M, ID 13566, authorization to submit community development block grant application and designating required certifying officials, environmental health.
Is there a second? Randy seconds. So this is Resolution M in your red folders. Discussion.
And essentially, this is just allowing for the new director, Skip Parr, to be our designee in order to do these certifications.
Anybody else?
We did add it to our agenda. It came to us late, and that's why we were asked to add it to the agenda.
Okay. Ready to vote then on Resolution M? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
And then as far as the report, our next meeting is tomorrow, September 17th at 1 p.m. And it should be a relatively quick meeting. We have some minutes to approve, and then we do have 2 resolutions. So I think we are confirmed that we will have quorum as well. I think there were some concerns earlier, but we're set. So.
Great. Thank you. Any questions or comments for the Health and Human Services Committee? Great. Next up, Housing and Economic Development Committee, Mike Sigler.
Well, our 2 leaders are gone today, so this job has been left to me. I mean, the main thing that we talked about was Department of Social Services, preventative services for unhoused children and families, bus tickets, and youth services. If somebody else from the committee would like to speak on any of those, that'd be terrific. But also, we did pass through a lot of money through the committee. Expenditure of $100,000 to support Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services, Varna, the CHTB project, that was 10 grand, and then Village of Ithaca, that was 90,000. And then also we sent money on to the Housing and Economic Development Committee that the Tompkins County Legislature, we authorized the expenditure of $570,000 of Industrial Development Agency contribution funds. So, yeah, we moved a lot of money through the committee, and then we also resolved that we authorized Director of Finance to make the following adjustments to the budget, which was also all a part of that. So that was our main thing, that we spent money, basically, on housing, which was always a great thing, and we talked about the homeless in our community. So we are making strides at that. And I miss Greg and Travis to give these reports. So there you go.
Questions or comments for the Housing Economic Development Committee? Veronica.
Just to elaborate a little more on the presentations, there were 3 in a row right up top that Mike mentioned that I'd recommend going back and watching about about working with children in our DSS systems. And we had a presentation from Youth Services about youth homelessness and the supports or lack thereof, and the stuff about DSS bus tickets. But in particular, in the first presentation, we had 2 folks from DSS, Jennifer Brown, the Child Protective Supervisor, and Barbara Kasian, I might be butchering her last name, the Family Housing Coordinator. And Barb's position in particular, she's been with the DSS for a while, but in this position for the last 6 months, was funded with some specific OTDA money. And what she's been doing is just working intensively with families who are in our emergency shelter. So this is at the Roadway Inn now, and basically supporting them, helping move into permanent housing. Or I guess some of them are through hotels throughout the county. And she's been, I don't remember the numbers, but she's been very effective at getting folks into permanent housing. And in terms of what she does every day, it seems like over 20 families, and that's out of a little more than that families who've been in our shelter system this time. Yeah. But she says she's just doing a lot of going and knocking on doors and asking, what do you need today? And getting them, help applying for this or that, help with finding food access, help getting on this or that service, like help getting physical items that they need. And it's been, I think it's the kind of work that is like kind of nebulous and also kind of very effective. And we asked what we could do to support her more legislatively, and she said if there were 3 of her, that would be great. But they also said she did just get an assistant, so that should hopefully be good.
Anything else for the housing and income? Oh, sorry, Deborah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, further to that point, Barbara is sort of the general all-purpose fairy godmother for these families. And I think one thing that we ought to consider as we enter into the holiday season this year is maybe contributing financially on a personal level so that she has some financial wherewithal to help these people get settled, get them the things that they need, and maybe help them celebrate Christmas with their families. So I will probably be tapping you all as we get closer to the holidays to see what we can do. Thank you.
Anything else for this committee? Okay. Thank you, Mike, for filling in. Next up, Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, Ann Corman, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Our committee met on September 5th, and some of the highlights were we talked about local landfills and local landfills and leachate management. So it's actually a very important topic because we are responsible, as most folks know, to take care of to close down landfills that the county has had over the years. And so we talked about the increasing costs of that. It's more, the cost is more than they have budgeted for, but at recycling materials management, but it looks like they're going to be able to be okay for possibly the next year, but we're going to see. The costs are going up for that, and the costs, the reimbursement rate for recyclables, as we've mentioned before, is going down. So it's a couple of things hitting them. We had a presentation regarding the environmentally preferred procurement policy at the county, and so I'll recommend folks, if you weren't able to attend, to go back and look at that. One highlight that I wrote down was one of the water bottle filling stations, like we have one downstairs, right as you come in the entrance. So instead of a water fountain, you can fill up your water bottle. And they are monitoring, there's electronics in it that monitor the use. And so, for instance, that one downstairs has supplied enough water to have filled 10,000 bottles of water over the past year. So I know not all of those would have been plastic bottles, but plastic one-use, single-use bottles, but I think it probably replaced quite a few. So I wanted to thank our department's facilities for gradually replacing the water fountains with water filling stations. And we also had finance department here to talk about how that's either if they've integrated the purchasing into that. And so we had just a quick update from Terry Carroll at Planning regarding the federal government has now declared that greenhouse gas emissions are not a pollutant. So a little bit.
Sorry. It's ridiculous. Sorry.
A little bit of discussion, but on what that could mean, but really we're going to be taking a look at that. That could be have serious effects for the amount of grants and other funding that we get for different projects. And I just wanted to mention that I was able to go on a tour of a solar farm recently. And thanks to Cornell Cooperative Extension for organizing that. And this was in Dryden. And one of the biggest topics was how you could have agrovoltaics, which is either growing crops or having animals feed under or graze under or in around the solar panels. And right now, I mean, this is ongoing, fairly new research. Right now, what they're looking at is that probably grazing is going to be the only viable option because of just the mechanics of trying to get machinery in there. And one of the cool things that they said was, because of the solar panels, we've been having increasingly hot summers, but the solar panels naturally provide shade, so they can go graze, go to shade, so it's really protecting for the animals, and it keeps them out of the weather. And so I wanted to thank Cornell Cooperative Extension. Veronica, Vice Chair, did I forget anything else?
I think just to add on to your comment about the EPA reconsidering the greenhouse gas endangerment finding, it was our folks from our Planning and Sustainability Department are working to submit a public comment, or maybe they already have done by now, to the EPA's public input process under I think the correct assumption that advocacy is part of their job supporting sustainability in this county.
Right. I'll say, thank you for that. So I'll correct myself. It's a proposal. So you can give public comment on whether they should go ahead and declare that greenhouse gas emissions are not a pollutant. And our next peak meeting is Tuesday. It's usually on Monday, so just mark your calendars. It's on Tuesday, October 14th at 1 p.m., just to adjust a little bit for Indigenous Peoples Columbus Day.
Questions or comments for Ann?
Oh, I'm sorry. There's one more thing. It's we had a presentation. I'm sorry. I'm trying out these glasses. It's a little hard to see. I'm not getting old, but it's just the glasses. We had a presentation regarding contaminated sewage sludge coming from wastewater treatment plants, and what the effects of that are if they're put on farmland, golf courses. They're also being the solids are also being spread on school grounds. So we had a presentation about that, and the Environmental Management Council that advises us is following up on that and helping us look at a possible moratorium here in the county for spreading that.
Deborah.
Why would you spread sewage sludge on school grounds?
Because some government says it's fertilizer. There are components in there that all fertilize, but unfortunately, and a lot of it is, but unfortunately, it's contaminated with PFAS and sometimes heavy metal, all kinds of things. But it's a low-cost fertilizer. And the Ag and Farmland Protection Board is in favor of us looking at passing a moratorium because it has permanently damaged farms up in Maine, and where they've been doing this practice, and so they're unable to use the farms to grow products for human consumption, and so anyway,
more on that.
We'll be looking at that. I'll keep you updated.
Anything else for the Peak Committee? Mike Lane.
I think I mentioned this before, but back when in the village of Dryden was trying to get a federal grant to update its sewer plant, one of the things they made us do was to study land application of sewage sludge at that time as an alternative to drying it and landfilling it. And we weren't very interested in that, but we had to study it.
Anything else for Ann and the Peak Committee? Okay, Public Safety Committee, Shauna Black, Vice Chair.
Thank you. I would like to postpone the flock resolution that was on consent. Do I do a motion for that?
Yeah, you do.
Okay. If I can make a motion to postpone until our 10/7 legislature meeting for Resolution H, authorization to accept gun-involved violence illumination, GIVE 2025 through 26 grant, Sheriff's Office ID 13450.
Excuse me.
Oh.
We have some Robert's rules to discuss.
Are you going to postpone, or would you like to table it until the next meeting?
You wanted to put it at a specific next meeting? You want it to come up at that meeting?
Yeah, let's have it come up at the next meeting.
Can I ask a point of order?
Point of order, yes.
Can you please, because we were looking this up, and I can't remember now, but somebody, Veronica, had sent clarification on this. But I know there's a difference. One, if you...
Why don't we let Katrina answer that, since that's her job?
Can I ask the question? Which one requires us to have a vote to get it back on the floor, and which one it's just right on the agenda?
You're going to have to vote to bring it back off the table.
Either way.
So if you postpone it, you don't have to vote, it just goes on the agenda.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure we know what we're voting on.
Does she have to put it on the floor?
We do.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You remember?
We do have to move it first, unless you're going to withdraw altogether from the agenda.
Yeah, but we need to know what we're moving. Are we moving to table or are we moving to postpone?
You need to move the resolution itself, and then we can decide if we're going to table or postpone.
So I'm just going to withdraw, and then we'll bring it back to the next legislature meeting. That seems easiest. Okay, thank you.
So,
There you go.
okay, hang on a sec. So she's not technically the chair of the committee. Can she just withdraw it unilaterally?
As long as you allow her to do
As
that.
long as that resolution's withdrawn. I just asked that because we do have a rule that a committee chair can automatically withdraw. I just wanted to find out what Roberts was saying. Nope.
I'm next in charge. Rich
okay.
John said so. No, I'm just joking. He didn't. No,
All good. I just wanted to make sure it was right.
he
Yeah.
didn't say that.
I have a question.
Yes, Lee, go ahead.
That did pass through committee, correct?
Yes.
So it will come back to the floor despite being removed tonight.
Yeah, it was simply withdrawn just so that we could get Flock here.
I understand
So
why.
that they could be part of the conversation. There's no ulterior motive for us not to vote on that, so.
Not ascribing any, but just ensuring that it does come back.
I think we'll have to just double check our research in between meetings, but there's always a way to get it back on the floor, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then we did have some other conversation. We also, I guess I'm confused because we met August 26th and we actually had 3 resolutions that were passed all together. We had one out of Dewar that was technical rescue and urban search and rescue grant. And that was, I believe, for our new radios. And I don't see that on our legislature agenda for tonight.
It was an odd.
I think we did it last
time.
meeting. Because we've had another legislature meeting since public safety.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, that's interesting that our other one, so there were 3 resolutions. The one was the GIVE grant that was on August 26th. And then we had, the next resolution was accept fiscal year 2022. And you're right, we did have a discussion about why it was 2022 and not 2024 in our last meeting.
Shauna, do you have the ID number on that one?
Yeah, sure do. It's ID 13503. You know, maybe what needed to happen for the GIVE grant is it had to go through budget and the timing was off. Budget was the day after the legislature meeting. And so it hadn't passed through budget.
That was adopted at the last meeting.
Okay.
It's resolution 2025-191.
Okay. And then we also passed the resolution for funding for security enhancements, 13499. And I'm assuming that might have had to pass budget as well, which was the day after the legislature meeting.
That, for some reason, that's scheduled to go to the 10/7 legislature meeting.
Okay.
So because it did pass budget last week, but it would have had to come here pending committee action, and there was no push to do that. So
okay.
It is scheduled to go to 10/7.
Okay. Okay. So let's see here. That was essentially our meeting. We had a report, and we had a pretty large discussion about the increase in our jail population. We also talked about the numbers for our jail, why we saw a little bit of an increase. I think we were down to like high 50s, maybe even like 52 people that were residing in our jail the day of public safety. We also had a report we had not received back the report from the Center for Governmental Research yet. I believe we're going to be expecting that in our next public safety meeting. So that will provide us recommendations on our emergency medical services. And then we did have a short report from Mona from the Community Justice Center, recommendations for next year and her interaction as well with the Ithaca Police and what her role was going to look like. The Sheriff's Department came in, gave us a nice report. Matt Van Houten also came in and talked about his funding, that CAPS arraignment's going really well with his attorneys going in and doing those. The other part that is really exciting, and I know we talked about this in budget, was the victims advocate coordinator position that he was able to receive grant funding for. I believe he's going to ask for the fringes for this legislature to pick up the tab for the fringes, but for the actual position, he was able to get that covered. And then Dewar came in as well and gave their monthly report, probation, assigned counsel, and I think that was it. Am I forgetting anything, Veronica, Lee, or Mike?
Veronica?
Not forgetting anything, but in Rich's absence, I would just like to say that our current jail numbers are 57 people in the jail with 2 board outs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments for the Public Safety Committee? Shauna, you are still up with the Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Shauna Black, Chair. Big night for
Big
Shauna.
night. We have not had a meeting in, I guess, 2 months. I think we're up to have one in September?
I thought August was our last meeting. I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
November. It was May, for sure.
Yeah.
August. So September. November.
Oh.
November is the date.
Yes. Then I guess we'll have one around Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Tough job keeping Shauna on the straight and narrow.
Questions or comments for the Tiger Committee?
Should give up.
Next up, Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Veronica Pillar, Chair.
Workforce Diversity and Inclusion has not met since our last legislature meeting, but we will be meeting next Wednesday, September 24th at 3 p.m. right here.
Questions or comments for WDIC?
Sorry, and this is not WDIC, it's not related to the committee, but in general, you may have seen the press release go out today for the Amplify grant funded by the county and helmed by Charlene Holmes and WDIC member Carmen Arroyo. It's to small dollar amount grant to amplify equity work that people are already, it can be an organization, an individual already doing in our community. I don't have the details in my mind, but please, a press release went out today. Please share that information and application widely. Thanks.
Thank you. Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
Back to me. We did have a meeting on September 11th. Most of the resolutions we're dealing with, we got one more tonight that we haven't dealt with, but one of the most interesting things we did at the meeting was to have a discussion about whether or not increasing the hotel room tax would be a good idea. to generate some more revenue. We had a report from Nick Helmholt from our planning department, and there's a terrific memo that he wrote. And if you haven't seen that, it's attached to our budget agenda, and perhaps we could send it out to anybody who'd like to have it. Also, you could listen to his presentation at the meeting on our YouTube channel. And we didn't take any action. There wasn't any resolution, but we did discuss the pros and cons. We had folks from the Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce who were saying to us that this would probably discourage more conferences or other people coming in. And there were also, we had some discussions about whether or not it might also allow us to do some things that we need to do with the extra money, and whether or not that would really be the impact of a traveler, whether or not it was an additional 1%. We have the sales tax, we have the county room tax, and in the city, there's the city room tax as well. So we're in the 15% range for people who stay downtown in the hotels. So that's pretty much what the discussion was about. And I'd be glad to move my other resolution if you'd like me to do that.
Any questions or comments first for Mike? Okay, yes, please go ahead and move Resolution J.
This is J. Ratification of agreement between the County of Tompkins and the Tompkins County Corrections Officers, which is ID 13555, and I so move.
Is there a second? Deborah seconds.
We've had, previous to this meeting, we've had discussions about this, and I think hopefully we all understand what's going on here and how we will proceed with these negotiations in the future. But I certainly recommend that we pass this.
Discussion. Ready to vote then on Resolution J? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee, no report except to say what I said last time, which is there will be a small update coming, a modification of one of the grants that's being requested. We just don't have quite enough information yet to give you the correct information for you to consider. When we get that, the committee will consider it and decide whether or not they want to meet to discuss that or not. Any questions for the Community Recovery Fund? Hey, can I get someone to move the minutes of the previous meeting, September 2nd, 2025? Veronica moves and seconds. Any discussion? Let's have a vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Is there any unfinished business? No. In that case, can I get a motion to adjourn? Amanda moves, Mike Sigler seconds. All in favor of adjourning? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.